My name's Karli Waldon. I'm currently the president of Talent War Group, which is a leadership development and executive search firm based out of Austin, Texas. I started my journey in the military at the ripe age of 17, 18, somewhere around in there, early. Yep. And only thing I wanted to be was a cryptologic linguist. And so joined the military. I'm like from this.
What made you want to be a cryptological linguist?
I
didn't
grew
know
up.
that was a job when I was joining.
I grew up speaking several languages, and it was just my thing that I talented at. And so, I was a little bit. I know I'm tall now, but I was like a year behind everyone in school. So sports, I played sports, wasn't very good at them. So really had to focus on the academic side of things. And so, no, I grew up in speaking different languages, and I loved it. And I grew up in the lovely metropolis of Boring, Oregon. That is the actual town.
Wow.
Yep.
Boring.
Boring. B-O-R-I-N-G.
Oh, no, it was a joke.
Yeah,
Boring,
no.
Oregon.
Yeah, no, like that is the name of the town. It's Boring, Oregon. Not a joke.
Wow.
And so, and it holds to its name. And I think they partnered with like Dole, Scotland or something along
That's their sister city.
Yeah, sister
Dole,
city.
Scotland.
Yeah, Dole, Scotland. And, everyone looked the same. Everyone did the same thing, a lot of agriculture. And I was an independent little turd and, grew up, I had a fantastic childhood. I grew up on a big farm. My folks were entrepreneurs and so I don't, a little sense of not entitlement or anything like that, but I just wanted to chase my dreams, which I didn't really know what they were. I just wanted to get out and explore. And so I remember coming home one day, I think it was 16. I was 16, yeah. And I told my parents that I wanted to join the military. And they were like, whoa, and like super sheltered,
Did your parents serve or no family?
No.
So you just...
Yeah, I found out later that like my grandparent or my grandfathers had served, but they never really talked about it. And I knew that like I had a great uncle who had served in Vietnam. He was part of SOG. He told me that the day before I shipped out, and I like didn't really understand like how significant that was till I got in the military. But no, not at all. Everyone thought my dad was like prior military, had the high and tight and everything, but and it was
farmer high and tight.
Yeah. But no, I just wanted to get out, and I thought.
Okay, so when you told them, it was like, what the hell? Like, what did we do?
No, they super protective, and they had wanted me to like go to college in like Oregon or Washington. And at the time, the only other state I really disliked more than Oregon was Washington. And I was like, how can I do this? And so that was to join the military. And so they got on board. And it was probably like, hey, listen, I'm going to like, you can support me, support this when I was 17. And, when I turn 18, I'm going to do it by myself. So, and I wanted their support it, in it. So that was really important to me, and they did. So yeah, I said, I didn't have a bad childhood or anything. It was great, and I just want to explore the world. And I spoke languages, and I was, like I said, I was like, oh, I speak all these languages. The recruiter told me, oh yeah, you'll be a, whatever, French, German, Spanish, whatever linguist, and I remember in boot camp, like whatever, it was like week 7 or 8 where they like assign the languages, and they had given me Mandarin Chinese, and I about fell out of my chair.
It's a little bit different than European.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I had studied Japanese in college a little bit. Beforehand, I was like, no, like this does not make sense. My brain is not, like.
Oitashimaste.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And to this day, I don't even know how I learned Chinese, but actually I do. I'll tell that later. But
so you were in San Antonio going through boot camp.
Yep.
And it's
right,
like,
San Antonio.
Yeah.
In Full Metal Jacket, they're like, McIntyre infantry, and for you they go crypto linguist, and then
well, I already knew what I was going to be.
Gotcha. Yep.
I would not join the military with like just like a general billet. They tried.
Yep.
I was like, nope, I'll wait a little bit. And I waited like 3 days, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, we have that billet open for you. So I was glad I had some, like common sense there. So I'm sitting in San Antonio. Oh, and like they had given, like, okay, put your top 6 languages down, that you want. Of course, I chose, ones that were not needed at the time. Russian was number 1 and Hebrew. I'm like, there was no need for them. So, and I definitely did not put down any Asian languages. And
Yep.
Chinese Mandarin.
Needs of the military.
Needs of
I think that's one of the
DoD.
first moments in the military where you're like, but I want to go here. No, you're going to 29 Palms, California. Oh, Roger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly.
that call to adventure, we all romanticize it, and then you get the first harsh slap of reality across the face.
Yeah.
You're going to speak Chinese.
Yep.
Mandarin.
And so I got honor grad, and I thought I was really special there for a few seconds. And then I got to DLI, and I realized everyone is really, really smart.
Wow.
Yeah. And every community that I went into was like just increasingly humbling me because I'm tall, blonde, like, not saying I'm a 10 out of 10, but back then I was like, hey, things did come a little easier to me. And I just kept, you grow up in boring Oregon. There's not a lot of competition.
How big was your high school class?
Well, so actually I went to a larger high school. The sad part is starting was like 580, graduating was like 320.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Type of, yeah. Big school. I think the school is like over 2,500 students or so. But there's kind of like small towns feed into it. But,
Okay.
yeah. So anyways, I just kept on. Yeah. I got to DLI and I was pissed that I had Chinese. Like I was pissed. And like, if I think about it, like I grew up in a very strict household, but, I pretty much got what I wanted, and not like just that I was like spoiled per se. Like we grew up off the land out of necessity, but I had everything I ever needed. And so that was really probably my first, like, hey, you have to pull up your bootstrap. You got to do this. Like you have no choice. And it didn't quite set in. I think I was 2 months into DLI. I just had a crap attitude. I was like, this sucks. And I wanted to be in the military. I really wanted to be in the military. I was like, really? I'm doing this? And I remember calling home, and my dad was like, listen, this is not changing. This is the military. Like you have everything it takes to learn this. The only thing that is holding you back right now is mindset. And I think he gave me a few words of encouragement, and I was on my way. And so when I did change my mindset, Chinese actually became incredibly easy for me.
Wow.
And I was like, I looked at the, I'm like, there's no grammar, there's no conjugating anything. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I don't have to conjugate anything.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Conjugating is. And
Still figuring it out in English, though.
yeah, exactly. And so, and I was like, the characters, they make sense. And the characters or symbols, as people like to say. And so it became relatively easy to me with just a simple shift in mindset.
Just a pep talk from Dad. Shift
I mean,
your mindset.
Dad was pretty effective at pep talks growing up, and so that didn't change when I was out of the house. And so, anyways, yeah, I made it through and went on to a couple different other trainings and such, and again, just humbled, thinking, hey, I'm smart, I'm special. No, you're not. You're not. And fast forward through all the training and a couple little TDYs, and I remember I had gotten orders to Hawaii, which I
Not bad. Yeah.
well, yes and no, right? It was about the mission. I was very career focused, and I knew the mission in Hawaii. I was going to get so bored of just like writing down numbers all day long, and the stars aligned, and there was this gentleman, a peer of mine, who he's like, hey, I have orders to Fort Meade, NSA. And he goes, my wife is stationed out in Hawaii. Do you want to see if we can swap orders? And I was like, yes,
Wow.
I do.
You weren't lying. Stars aligning with that one.
Yeah, it definitely lined. And
You gave up orders to Hawaii.
I gave up orders to
That's
Hawaii.
motivated.
Yeah.
To go to Fort Meade.
Yeah, to go to Fort
Yeah.
Meade. And so, again, I get there. like I felt like a lost puppy. I'm like, I was young, maybe 19, 20 years old, and everyone there is wicked accomplished.
Yes.
You're, not necessarily working with military, like the units, it's different than a
Yep.
unit, right?
It's the intelligence community.
Yeah, it's the
I see.
exactly,
Yeah, it's different.
right? It's so different. And I worked for some amazing people while I was there and got like a ton of really great experience. I've never, and even to this day, I really have to work on it of like, I tend to be more introverted and whatever, and which is everyone at NSA, right? But if you want to, if like you want something, you have to say, hey, I want that and work towards it. And you have to, be good and try and all that. But I forced me out of my little shell to say, hey, can I get some experience with that, or can I try that? And I just remember thinking, wow, like this is really, really cool. And I think, really got me out of the mindset. I think when we're younger, like we want to be the smartest person in the room and all of that. And I never was. Like, especially in the military, I never was. To this day, never will be. And honestly, if I am if that happens to be the case, I'm in the wrong room. But anyways, just, I didn't get a ton of like great leadership experience in the military, and we can talk about that later, because I just bounced around everywhere, like shop, and that was kind of a little bit of the trade-off that I got of, and then I'd take up an agency billet or, and
You had a lot of flexibility in what you could do in that
I
role,
had
it
a
sounds
lot of
like.
flexibility. People don't think that you'll get that in the military. I'm like, yeah, you say you want to go do something. Hey, you want to go work for the State Department. You want to go work for whatever other agency, hey, you have this skill set. And if you get one no, there's always more places to get a yes. So
That sounds like part of that mindset shift you had.
yeah,
Like, I'm going to go here if I want to go there.
yeah, exactly.
And even in the military, you can do that.
Absolutely.
That's refreshing to hear. I wish I would have known that. Took me a while.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I did not do it right every single time. Had a few humbling moments for sure during my time there, but I and like I said, just and failing like multiple times,
Yes.
failing multiple times
Yep.
at what I was doing, which was incredibly frustrating. For me, like I say for me, because I'm like, I had done so good. I had done all these things and it's like, yeah, okay, now welcome to like the real world, and how like what's actually important and how things actually work. And I'm like, oh, okay, I am certainly outside of my bubble.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's a common theme with leaders that our archetype, or what we think of as leaders, is like these ego-driven people.
Yeah.
And most leaders I talk to, they humility comes in. Like, I like being the stupidest person in the room. I do.
Yeah.
Because I learn, and when I learn, I grow, and I fail because these guys are pushing me.
Right.
And that's the only way I learn. I love that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Like one of the things there's a lot of different experiences you get out of the military. When I think back to one of them that really helped me is in the infantry, I learned a lot of things you learn right away. And when I was at the university, because I joined enlisted at first. So I joined in the Corps of Engineers. So I was a crane operator.
Yeah.
And everything I did, I was the top of my class. Like I was always the strongest. Had all these things. And then I went to the university and I was, top 3 in my class. I was always stronger. And then I got to the infantry and it was like, there's a lot of tough people there.
Different.
That guy's a
Yeah.
lot stronger than me.
Yeah.
That guy whooped my ass.
Yeah.
Everyone's so much faster.
Yeah.
It just was this big slap in the face. And that I started interacting with lieutenants who were part of the senior military colleges,
Yeah.
or just West Point in general. And I was like, I didn't learn any of that. We didn't teach anything about tactics or strategy. There was no class on that. I thought I was doing really good. And what I come to realize right off the bat was, man, I'm like 70 percentile. Like I thought I was top 10. First thing there was like, all right, I got to learn everything all over again.
Yep.
I'm not strong enough. I can't climb rope fast enough. I can't take apart my weapon. Like all these things I didn't know I wasn't good at. Or I thought I could do a lot of pull-ups. I thought I could do these different things. And it was like reinventing yourself all over again. And that I've been riding, like you said, for years on this, like, man, my strength gets me through. This gets me through. Yep. And there was like, I'm not even that strong. Like, I'm not even nowhere near the top in strength when it comes
More
to
humility.
Yeah, like
More
immediately
humility.
put you back down. I think that was a big learning lesson coming into the military. just that ego check in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah. Like if you don't check it, somebody's gonna check it for you.
It's a
They're
beautiful thing.
guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yeah, the accountability thing.
Yeah.
Like instant accountability, instant responsibility in the military
Yeah, fix yourself. Like
Yeah.
somebody's gonna call you out on it.
in a very polite way.
Oh,
Raising their voice.
I
with
don't know
very
where
colorful
you
words.
were at.
No, the
but-
Marine Corps. Are you kidding me? The first time I walked into the office, I was a second lieutenant. I looked like I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I had a gunny just guffaw at how young I looked with F-bombs all over the place. And I went, wow, okay, this is a different world.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
You know, I always wanted to when I joined the military, I'm like, I wanted to be in the Air Force, and I don't regret it, but I would have loved to have been a Marine. Yes, I would have loved it. Funny story and sidetracking. I hadn't decided on the Air Force yet. And like I said, I was 16. I grew up in the country, so to go to like the recruiting commands, it was like, I don't know, an hour drive,
Yeah.
and I drove like a 1994 F-250 that got like 3 miles to
heck
the
yeah.
gallon.
Was it
So, and I
dually?
worked. It wasn't a dually. No,
Okay.
it was lifted though. It was beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Worth a lot of money now here in Texas. I sold it for
Yep.
like $2,000. Anyways, so I walk in and I'm just like, a lot bubbly. And I had walked into the Navy recruiting station, and there was a petty officer smoking a cigarette in there. And I was like, ew, this is gross. Like, I was like, no, I can't do this. So, I had an appointment with the Air Force. That's
The
right.
Navy scared you away because the
The guy was
he a
smoking.
chief?
It was gross. Yeah, it was gross to me. He was
Go Navy.
Yeah, and I was, like a little pretentious, not on purpose, but I was just like, yeah, that's gross. I don't want that. And so I walked next door to the Marine recruiting command, and this gunnery sergeant, he turns around, he's like, "Can I help you, sweetheart?" Oh, I'm looking to join the military. Like, I didn't understand all of this interaction till later on. And he was like, Air Force is next door. And I said, I already have an appointment, And anyways, like, fast forward, really wasn't that much longer when I got out. I was like, okay, I see where he's coming from on that one. But,
They do that with everybody.
yeah.
Like, you don't want to be here. They
Yeah.
try to scare you away. I
Yep.
love it.
Oh, he wouldn't even talk to me. He was like, you just need to go next door. And I was like, all right.
What year was this, or what time frame?
2006, 7-ish.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So the war had already been going on.
Yeah. I remember 9/11.
Yeah.
Like I want to explore the world, but I remember 9/11. I was
Yeah.
in 7th grade and like I remember watching it, it was like 6:00 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. I was getting ready for school, and it's on big tube TVs and everything, and I remember seeing it, and I had never been to New York or seen that side of the world, and it was like, well, that's not good, and then, the years following, it was there was so much unity in our country, and I patriotism, which is now a bad thing apparently, but anyways, different topic. But I remember like I want to join the military. That was
Wow. So 7th grade,
Yeah.
you see the Twin Towers go down, and
Yeah.
you say, "I want to go help."
Yeah.
Wow.
And maybe not necessarily in that moment, but I just always knew that like, hey, there's something that I'd like to do. And like the military was the way that I knew how to do it. Like I said, I grew up in a small town, like people know about State Department and all of that stuff. But could have gone and done that. I didn't. But
awesome.
yeah.
The compelling event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of service. My grandfather, my mother, my father all joined, and it was something I wanted to do. 9/11 became that like compelling event of like this.
So you joined after 9/11 too?
I joined in 2006.
Wow. I'm the old man here then.
Sorry about that.
No, I love. You don't understand. Like that
You
inspires
joined in the
me.
90s, right?
I joined back when the Soviet Union had collapsed. The Gulf War was over. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to fight.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go to cool places. And then 9/11 happened while I was a first lieutenant.
Okay.
And it changed everything.
Yeah.
And you guys joined after the fact. And I think that inspires me.
Well, I joined because my
Motivates me.
brother joined in 95, and he was like that person in my family of like, this is where you want to be with your life. Like, look what I'm able to do. He went to MacDill Air Force Base.
Oh, yeah.
With whoever that unit is out there, USASOC.
I
So,
think so.
Constant deployments, to Iraq in the early days, and just meeting his friends and being around that environment, that culture. It's what just kind of cemented it to myself. I joined to become an officer because of my mom. Without a doubt, I was ready to go in 2006 when I joined, go active. My mom was like, just please go to college.
Yes.
She's
That's what my dad
please
said.
try to
Yeah.
just do
Yeah.
something different than all of us and be. I forget how she said it, but it was like, oh, tears like, everything like. So that was a whole compelling event to go to college.
Yeah.
And so my brother introduced me to a major that he worked with.
Yeah.
She was like, you should go talk to UTSA ROTC. In fact, I'll make the call for you right now. She's like, hey,
Road
actually, they want
runners.
to meet you tomorrow. Can you go there? So it was like, that is the culture of the military. It isn't like, oh, we'll get back to it. It's like, we can just do this now. Like, I can just literally call now, right? Okay. And she did it. Next day I showed up there, and then before you know it, that's the process from there.
Yeah.
So when you think about why we join, why we stay, why we do these things, I think if you don't have someone in your life explaining to you the intangibles of joining the military and why it's a thing, you'll never go. I mean, there's so few people that really go that route anymore. But that's what I tell my kids. It's
Yeah.
like,
I love that. And that's what I think that's what makes veterans different to me, just as a talent source, is because you answer a call where when you sign that contract, I mean, literally you are giving everything away.
Yeah.
And you're a young person and you have no idea what you're doing. And I mean, it's the hero's journey. It's Joseph Campbell. You're taking that first step.
Yep.
And then on the other end, when you get out, one of my favorite stories is the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah.
That my favorite part is after he finished the war, getting home was the ultimate journey.
Yeah.
And I'm rambling now. So
So that's okay. I promise you, I will probably do the same.
it's
here
great
in a
when they
little
have
bit.
editing because then you're just they stitch us together.
Yeah.
But I think what
My
we're getting
humanity.
at is two things. We were going through your story of
Yeah.
like we're picking out some lessons of why we joined, what
Yeah.
the compelling event was.
Yeah.
And for 2 out of the 3 great Americans here, it was 9/11. But one of them, you got called into service in the early 90s, which was great. What happened after that? Like you've gone through a few different assignments, which quick tangent. I think one of the neat things we get to impress on people who are in the military is that there are options.
Yeah.
And from the Air Force side, I didn't realize it, but I met people similar to your field and that they got to bounce around to positions. Like you said,
Oh, yeah.
go apply to go to a State Department or go to this.
It's not even
No, it doesn't.
not even apply. Like seriously, you could go up a different floor and just say, "Hey, can I like?" And you ask my supervisor at the time was not military, and so I'd be like, "Hey, Kip, do you mind if I go work with so and so at this floor and whatever?" And like, yeah, and hey, we got a billet and we're going to X, Y, and Z country for a couple weeks, and and I'm like, "Yes, please, sign me up," and I'm like, hey, yeah, you're going to go to South America, somewhere in South America. I'm like, yes, which had its challenges purely based on my looks, but I'm like, heck yes, I want this
I'll blend
experience.
in just fine.
Yeah.
My risk sensors, adapters, whatever they're called, weren't fully developed. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't think those develop until we get older.
No, they don't.
Because
Like, I think it's like
I'm
25.
still developing mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you're a Marine, so. Jokes can fly, right?
Yes,
We're
they.
good?
Oh,
Okay.
please! I need them. I need to talk about eating crayons and all that other fun stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I won't go that way. But yeah, so I just every opportunity that I could, I would try and take, and there I was denied a few times. Like, hey, you need to sit down for like more than a week. And then let's see, and then I had gotten married while I was in, and my head contract had gotten bought out, and it was all coming to an end. And okay, do I renew, and what do I do? And I said I just gotten married, and within like a year or two of me getting out, and I said, oh no, I'm gonna try this on my own. There's so much red tape, so much red tape in the military, all the bureaucracy, blah blah blah. And
I
yep,
think we all did that.
yep, we did, yeah, exactly.
Freedom.
And so here like starts a story of being the poster child for how to not to transition out of the military. And I've been on the East Coast, and, DC, all of that. And I was like,
Bubble, the Beltway. Yeah.
I want to go back to the West Coast. And so my husband he had lived in Orange County gone to college there and had lived there for several years afterwards. And so we're like, let's go to Orange County. And, I was like, well, I speak Chinese and I speak all these languages and he's a construction engineer. We'll be totally fine,
Yep.
And I think I went through TAPS, ACAP, whatever it's called now, at the Naval Academy because I lived in Eastport.
Annapolis.
Yeah, I lived in
I
Annapolis.
love that
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, and I was like, okay, this is okay. Like, I didn't know any better. Like, do your resume, show us how you look in a business suit. You have an expert come up there and show you what it's supposed to
Yep.
do, and check, you're good to go. Boot out, And so I was like, I've got this. We got savings, whatever. Get to Orange County, California, sunny, beautiful beaches,
Yep.
0 jobs.
Yep.
0 jobs at the time. I'm like, oh, the economy. Okay. And so I think just me alone, I had applied to no less than 400 jobs.
Were these blind resumes where you're
Yeah.
just submitting, not networking?
Oh, I was I was applying for housekeeping at a certain point. I was like, we've been running through savings, like 5-6 months in.
Scary.
And yeah, super scary. And I didn't I didn't apply for unemployment because I'm like, I have savings. I'm not going to do,
I'm not going to be
Pride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All the pride and everything. And I remember one day I got a phone call back and I was really excited. I didn't know who it was, but I was like, I think this is for an interview. And it was housekeeping. I'm like, I don't care at this point. I'll take out the garbage, do whatever you need me to do. I'm not necessarily, back then wasn't the best house cleaner, but I'll figure it out. And they're like, yeah, no, you're overqualified. And I'm like, what? What? And I was like, we have to start looking somewhere else. This isn't working. And so I had, I was working with, and I forget the gentleman's name, just kind of, he's like a transition specialist. Can't remember, I think his name was Tom or something. And he goes, hey, I know that out in San Antonio, they're looking for an English teacher to Taiwanese pilots because I would say we just sold them. But
Randolph.
yeah, but now I have to say, back then we had sold them a
in the
bunch of
day.
F-22s, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, great, applied, awesome, and got the job. So we pack up all our stuff. I think we even had to sell a vehicle to buy a Penske truck. We were running on fumes, literally. And we got to San Antonio. Sorry, Anthony.
Home sweet home for me too. I love San Antonio.
Oh, no. So we get to San Antonio and we're like, oh boy, I think we were staying the wrong side of San Antonio. And we're like, oh wow, what did we just do?
Yeah.
And I had a couple weeks before I started and we were looking for a place and we're like, this is really stupid and really crazy, but let's drive up to Austin and just see what it's about. And we drove up to Austin and we're like, this is, again, stupid, but I think this is where we're supposed to be.
It's California and Texas.
Yeah. And so, this is 10 years or over 10 years ago. But so anywho, we're like, really stupid. I think this is where we're supposed to be. So we stayed at some less than ideal, kind of extended stay place for a couple weeks and got a place. And I think I had applied to 10 different places. I got 7 interviews, 4 job offers. And that's how I got into military recruitment. And I totally thought that it was, or just recruitment in general. I thought it was just okay, this is going to tide me over. And
thing I'm going to do for a little while.
Yeah, I'll do it for a little bit just to wait till something that pops up with languages, And I kind of fell in love with it. And I was able to help people. And I learned the first 3 seconds all of the mistakes that I had made. I was like, so you guys heard my story and you still hired me? I'm like, okay, a little sketchier. No, it was great. It's at the time, and probably still is to this day, one of the largest military recruiting firms. And they've expanded since then and such, but into other areas. But anyways, yeah. And again, so, all that humility I was telling you about, I didn't realize how big the military network and community was. I was like, well, I will have so much to offer them because I was in the military. And so
The big monolith.
yeah.
Everybody's the same.
So I go into this and not realizing that everyone there is prior military across all their offices, and they have a few people that aren't, but for the most part. So I go in there. immediately humbled. But even to things of like, not that I didn't know how to write emails properly, but just things are a little bit different. I'm like, oh, okay, sit down and just like observe and watch people. And I was in sales and, you know, moved into more on the recruiting side of the house. And I was like, wow, this is eat what you kill.
Yeah.
And I can kill a lot right now. Like, you know, we had gone without a lot. And so I was like, you're telling me there's uncapped potential here? I can
He's
make,
got to work harder.
I just have to like, hello. Yeah. So I was totally down for it. And I did really well. I was 23 years old and making over six figures. And back then that was
Wow.
like,
Fantastic amount.
yeah, my base salary was like 30,000, but it was commission based. And I was like, well, there's no stopping me. I can work 24/7 if I wanted to, you know? So I was really happy. And then as you get more comfortable and you get caught up and you're more proactive on things, I remember the day really, really clearly. I was talking to this kid. He probably was older than me, but who he had gotten out of the military and he wanted to be closer to family. And this company had made him an offer, different state where he wanted to be at. And like the opportunity actually really wasn't that great. And I remember trying to sell him on the job.
Oh.
And I'd like pause for like a good like 15, 20 seconds and it just like all hit me. And I was like, you know what, dude, this is not the job for you. And I realized I was like, I'm pigeonholing people. And like, not that it wasn't a good effort, a good cause. And it was balancing that for profit and also doing the right thing and making sure our brothers and sisters are in ours are going to do something meaningful for themselves, for their families, and
Purpose.
purpose.
So
And it was
undervalued.
yeah.
So undervalued when you're trying to identify the next role. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you were a nuclear machinist mate in the Navy. Okay, now you're going to go work at a steel plant. You'll make good money, but are you going to enjoy your life?
Enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I love those military recruitment firms and
Yeah,
what they do.
yeah, absolutely.
Like infantry officer, oh, you're going to go work at a factory third shift.
Yep.
Or, I mean, it sometimes it does feel like you're just a peg in the hole.
Yeah, and I felt, and not that this was what the company was doing. I put all the disclaimers out there. Sorry.
They're great companies. Yeah.
But I felt like I was pigeonholing people into opportunities. I was like, I can't sleep at night doing this. Like once I realized I got off that high of like, I went from, and there's nothing against housekeeping or anything like that. It just, I wasn't the path that I had initially thought I was going to take. But, you know, I'd gone from, hey, I'm going to scrub toilets to, hey, I'm making a decent like a really good living. And my husband had gotten a job like that as well. And he ended up being a COO or like, anyways, running a company, all that stuff. And that's kind of a cool story too. But I was like, yeah, no, this isn't for me anymore. And so I went from working with a bunch of military folks, and there was good and bad with that, right?
Yeah, of course. Lots of personalities.
Lots of personalities. It was very enlisted versus officer. And so my mindset was, it was very
They
much
still
like,
had that.
yeah, they
Yeah,
still had
that's-
that mentality. And it was like, oh, well, you can't do this because you were an officer. I'm like, okay. Or, you know, or vice versa. And
You
it
had a
was
higher
just
GT
like,
score than most officers I know.
yeah. And
to get that
anyways, it was just very
cryptolinguist.
like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some experience elsewhere. And so I went to an executive search firm after that. And that's when I really learned the lesson of you need to be running towards something, not away from something. And I was running away from something, and I landed into an opportunity that, you know, and I traveled a lot previous. You know, I traveled a lot, even at the military recruitment firm, and the throttle went
Yes.
to working in a bullpen or whatever the heck it's called. And it was slow and it was boring. And I knew on day one too. And
Oh
Day
no,
one.
you had that gut. You're
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I got another year of
I've
this.
done that a few
I gotta,
times.
like,
Yep.
ride out.
Yep.
And it was a fairly large firm. They had multiple locations, and they're a really big firm now. I was the only military, and like they all loved it. That, oh, you're former military. they're like, they don't know what to do with me. Like I had the recruitment background. So, okay, we're going to put you in executive search, which I was excited about. I was like, okay, I can be an executive recruiter.
Yeah.
And we all know a good recruiter can recruit anything, right?
Yep.
Or anyone, I should say. And so I stuck that out, which felt like 10 years. And it was really, I think, 15 months. And I had always said, listen, if I switch jobs, getting out of the agency world, like I'm done with this garbage. And so I did. I went and I worked for one of Raytheon's cyber firms, and I started out as a contractor. It was like, okay, let me reset here. And like, it was nice being a contractor. You make good money. You're like, hey, I don't have to deal with all the corporate BS, but I still get to hear about it, and all of that. And kind of learned that. And George Randall, who wrote the book with Mike Sorelli, Talent War, came in like 3 or 4 months into me, and the whole like TA function was like just completely jacked. It was awful, doormat to the business, and I was like, wow, I'm so glad I'm a contractor. And so he came on, and I was like, sorry guys, I was like, crap, another Army JMO, and I had my fill.
No shit. I'm with you.
I had my fill at a previous firm, and sorry, edit that part out. At a previous firm, and I was like, and he had actually worked there too in the early 2000s, and I looked at his background. I'm like, oh, I know what he is all about. I'm like, great, whatever. And so I'll never forget. It was like his second or third day. He's like, hey, can I talk to you and whatever? And he's like, do you want to be a full-time employee here? And I said, well, do you want the nice answer or the honest answer, And he was like, the honest one. And I said, as things sit right now, I was like, no. And the culture is very toxic. There was some really, really bad leadership in place, and specifically for, fell in HR. And I was like, hey, these teams, and it's global, 43 different countries, it was just doormat to the business, and it was always just putting out fires. And I'm like, wow, I thought these people would have their stuff together, and they didn't. So he goes, what do you need to, what would you need to see change, for you to be a full-time employee? And I was like, boom, 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 boom.
Did you have a list ready to go?
It was right there, because I had been taking notes. I was like, hey, like if I were to be offered like a leadership position here, these are like the first things I would need to change. And it wasn't even changing personnel. It was just like cadence, how we treat people, how like just expectations with the business and the communication out to the business of like, hey, we are a partner to you, not, just some simple stuff and some systems and a little bit more complex stuff. He goes, give me 90 days. And I said, okay, I believe in the impossible, but this would, and I even have a tattoo about it. And it was like day 61 or something. And he goes, hey, you remember that list of things you asked me to do? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I did all of them. Oh, he said, so if I fix them, you become a full-time employee. And I said, yeah. So comes to me day 61. He goes, you asked me to do boom, boom, boom. Are you going to hold up? And I did them. Are you going to hold up your end of the bargain? I said, I guess I don't have a choice. And so I went like fast track into leadership after that. And I went from, I had small America's team to ended up like having global teams, and, and I had people in Australia and Singapore, the UK,
Very
India,
cool. Wow.
like all over the place.
That's
and
a
it
hell of a
was,
reach.
yeah. And I was still like, I think for the majority of those 3 years, I remember thinking one day it took me a while to sink in because it didn't matter. I'm like, everyone that I work with or, reports into me is like significantly older than I am. And I was like humbled, so humbled. And like they loved being on the team. And like I just poured into these people, but they poured just as much back to me. And anyways, so while I was there, that's how, another long story that I'll save y'all from, but got connected with Mike Sorelli and George. They hadn't started writing the book yet, but Mike was starting up a firm, EF Overwatch. They wanted me to come and help them out. I'm like, no, I already did the military recruitment thing. Long story short, fast forward 5 years, and now Mike's my business partner with Talent War Group. And so being able to walk into, I didn't see it, the opportunity right the first time around of like this blank canvas of I get to help create a firm of all good and bad experiences. And I just it didn't quite. I'm a little slow, so
It's Air Force. We understand.
yeah, I know.
It's not quite
Yeah,
Army. We'll
I
get you
know.
there.
We're always focused on the snacks.
Golf course. Yep.
Hey, I was. Let's see. The longest I was ever stationed at Air Force Base was like 2.5 months, and that was for training. That was it. Yep, I was always on an Army installation.
Lackland.
They did pay me extra though to live in Army barracks.
Wow.
We're gonna compensate you.
I
for this
made
clearly
more. I made
standard
more.
barracks.
Yes, I made more living in Army barracks than what my base pay was.
Wow.
Yep.
That's how bad they felt for the Air Force.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
True story.
Did you have when you kind of had that transition where you're like, I've got this? Were there mentors along the way? How did you figure that stuff out?
You know, great question. So people didn't give me feedback, and we had talked about this, I guess now like a month and a half ago,
yeah.
where I never solicited feedback. And I think people were like, hey, you're like doing really well. You're billing all this and whatever, you're driving results. We don't want to upset the high performer, the subject matter expert. So people just left me alone. And I like kind of wore that as a badge a little bit. And I was like, then I started getting frustrated. I'm like, I'm not getting feedback. And I'm like, I also wasn't soliciting feedback.
I like that.
And so, anyways, yeah, I think I like now, like I said, I always in a room with people who have done incredible things, and I just sit there and like wow, like all the lessons that they've had. And I would say going from being a subject matter expert, right, to leading a global team of like, hey, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was an NCO in the military. Like it's very structured of like, this is how you lead, for the most part. And you'll have your own styles and whatever. And I had nicknames like Sergeant Barbie, and it's like, okay, no one's really going to take me serious.
No.
Yeah. I get it. And anyways, it's like, so I tried to, and I think a lot of leaders do this, not all, but we try and control everything because we're like, we don't know how to do this. So we're going to, get in there. And then it's like, you don't have time to do that. And so it came to me, like, thankfully I was quick on that one where I was like, I remember I was like answering emails or jumping on Zooms at like 2:00 in the morning because I had global teams. I'm like, this is not sustainable whatsoever. And that's when it came into, okay, now it's training and passing that down to someone else. And like people don't realize like, hey, if I train someone how to do my job, it doesn't mean that I don't have a job. It means, potentially, I guess if they do it better, you know what? But you did a darn good job if you did. But you'll never move up if you don't train your replacement. And so when I finally figured that out, and it was like, not only is it like the right thing to do, it just like, this all makes sense. And again, a little slow. It took me a little while to figure that one out, but yeah.
Yeah, it comes together after a while.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the harder things coming out. It's like you do have military leadership. You do understand how to delegate and work with large teams, but you're also a doer. Like I do things.
Yes.
I get them
Player
done.
coach. Yep.
So it's like being able to turn that off was the thing I only recently learned.
Right.
Like really getting to that, like, okay, this needs to go and let it fail on its own, like fail up with this task.
Yep.
Because now I get to sit back and realize maybe my direction wasn't so good.
Right.
Maybe I didn't clearly articulate my intent of what I wanted out of this.
Right.
So it takes that step back. And that's funny though. This is past 6 months. So being a professional, being in the grind, being in it, I'd say the past 6 months has been a really great time in my own life to be able to step back and like, oh, okay. Let me think about how, because Scott and I have only been working together for two months now.
Yeah.
So having a leader like Scott on my team is life-changing in that he's been part of industry, he's been part of large events. And so two infantry guys, we've never even worked together. We've known each other for years, but it's been immediate in that there's no offense if he has a question, if he doesn't want it. He's like, hey, I got this other thing of the priority. He knows to call that out. And it's an example in that veterans, the theme of can do anything, we literally can transition into environments all over again, 10 years past exit, and still have that same agility. And that's why I think veterans can do anything.
The buzzword that he threw out there, I think, is one of the lexicon that veterans bring with them: commander's intent, understanding end state, and delegation, and working backwards. That's been, I think that's why we clicked right away, and the folks on the team are clicking. Is just we have that same lexicon. And when I went to the civilian world, I didn't understand what half the people were saying, even though we were saying some of the same things. That's a good point.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it makes me think about some of the frustrations you see when you come out that you don't know how to articulate.
Oh, man.
We have a guy on our team. I noticed he got out of the Navy like 6 months at this point, and there was a number of emails he was on, and he wasn't seeing a quick enough response. And so his like chief way of thinking about it is like, I need to tell all these people, like, what the fuck you waiting so long from this email? Like, it's been almost an hour. No one's responded. I'm like, totally, in the Navy, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's normal to be like, hey, we were all,
Instant.
but in the
Obedience
civilian
orders,
world, it's like, it's a different approach. Now you're calling people individually, not yelling at them, but rather like, hey, do you have an answer for this? Because there's these competing priorities. But again, it's one of those funny things about when you're transitioning out of the military. It's like, you just don't know you're that hardcore. And when we got out, that's like a lot of times, or even you probably didn't get a job because of maybe how military you were in that interview.
Oh yeah. Or I didn't take the time
Hurts.
to really practice or translate. I'm like, oh yeah, you like. There's companies like Home Depot, and it's good, it's great. They're like, okay, we have your MOS or your AFSC translator, right? No.
I got the chart. It's right here.
Yeah.
It says it all.
It was a good effort back in the day.
Back in the day. I know now, it's not relevant anymore probably. But yeah, it's like, okay, you did this really cool thing in the military, and the best thing you're going to be great at is a customer service rep. Nothing against customer service reps, but when you go from doing some really cool shit to, hey, I'm going to sit in a call center all day, or I'm going to be answering phones or whatever it is, that's really, really hard to sit with.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like in the military, I'm going to have to go through boot camp. It's going to suck. And you're not supposed to like it, but you know the progression. When you transition to the civilian world, you're going to do this job. Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah.
And you have to take ownership of that. That's a good point. I think that's a common challenge.
Yeah.
Hey, when you were getting out, you had mentioned that the talent acquisition side. You got out and it was like, all right, this is just a short time, a little stop into this. When you think about some of the veterans that you encounter when they're coming out, my piece I learned is like, you gotta have a focus. Like you got to choose an industry. You kind of have to, like, my sergeant major told me something good night. He's like, it's time to grow up. And you got to choose what you want to do. Like, can't just like float around and be like, I want to do things. It's like, choose what you want. Choose that industry. And for me, I didn't know what I was going to choose. I thought it was oil and gas at first. That didn't pan out. Then I was like, well, maybe it's residential construction because that opportunity presented itself.
Yeah.
And then thankfully, none of those things happened. And
Great.
And I
Thank
found,
God for those
and then I found
failures.
myself in the mission critical side. And it was like, after a while, you're looking around like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. This is the industry I'm going to focus on.
Right.
But I wouldn't have had that event unless I had that sergeant major from years ago saying, hey, time to grow up. You got to choose something.
Yeah.
So from the veterans that you're interacting with, how does that conversation go? Where directing them into maybe an industry or a field or something?
Whenever, I speak or any of our teams speak with someone who's transitioning out of the military, we're always asking, like, what are you looking for, right? And first off, we want to make sure it's realistic, right? Of like, hey, okay, and anyone, they used to back in the day, and I think some organizations still do, or companies, be like, okay, you were a 6-year 03, so you should make $78,000 a year. Like, no, like, I hate that, right?
Me too. Templating.
But of like, hey, I want to live in Sarasota, Florida, and I want to make $400,000 a year, and I want to be in this specific industry, and I want to, or I want to be remote. Well, that's fantastic. Have you done your research of how many of those opportunities there are? There's one. And that guy, he just got it, and look at his resume. He's going to have it for a long time. And if it does come open, not saying that it wouldn't happen, but more than likely, chances are you're not going to get that. So let's really let's go there. Like, what's your top? What's top of the priority, right? Is it location? Is it compensation? and going through there. And so it becomes it becomes a lot easier to sift through these opportunities of like, hey, does this align with my commander's intent of what I'm looking to get out of my next mission?
That's interesting. Asking yourself, like, what is it I'm trying to achieve here?
Yeah.
And so often I think we come out and we're tactical. I want to make 80K.
yeah.
Yep.
I want to be a PM. It's like, okay, in what? And I think my whole piece of advice I talk to veterans about is, again, not a job, not a target salary. It's industry. Because you can go, and I learned this from one of those large veteran recruiters. They'll put you in front of the opportunities, but very much the shotgun blast of opportunities. And that one of them in particular that I had to debate myself whether to go into was Home Depot.
Okay.
And
Store leadership program.
they wanted a operations manager in Schaumburg, Illinois, and it would pay me 95 was what I asked for. It was a third shift, which was not what I was like. I'll
make you a
how do you
vampire,
do this
man.
life?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and on paper, it's like, what did I want? The money is what they asked for. Location, I wanted to be in Chicago, but all right, I could live with that. And then it became down, which was really the first question I should ask myself, was like, how is this what I want with my life? Is this like what I transitioned out? Like, is this going to be fulfilling? Like me working at night doing warehouse work? I was like, no, it's not fulfilling. It's not what excites me at all. And what I realized what excites me is building, being a part of developing. And so that decision was, I turned it down. I turned down another opportunity, which was working for a brass company in the same area. And I looked at it thankfully. I took the job. I didn't take the job, and I went back to school. And so that didn't
Good
work
for you,
out, but I
man.
learned some interesting stuff along the way. But so many veterans, that would have already checked the box. You asked for that much money, you asked for that location, you're good. That would have taken me nowhere in my career. I would still be in Schaumburg. There were so many other areas.
No, you wouldn't. You would have become another statistic, which is, likely that you wouldn't have stayed there for more than a year.
Yep. In a worse position because I'd be in Schaumburg. I don't have family there. But at the time, that's what I wanted. And they were willing to give it to me. And I feel like what our obligation to, and that's the hard part, I think, why you left your job, from the veteran recruiting side, we get to deal with, we are that stop of like, hey, do you want this job? Like, this is what's going to happen afterwards.
Yep.
The difference with our careers is anything that we talk to a veteran about, it's like, hey, you may look at this data center technician role, this critical facilities technician role. This is the entryway into an industry. This is not the job that you're going to just keep doing for year after year after year.
Right.
This is the entryway into something much larger in that we
beginning
want
of the
you to come
journey.
talk to us in 2 years. We want to show you there's other areas to keep going in. And we're not just saying, all right, good luck working at Home Depot. Where it's like, good, great company. I went to Home Depot yesterday. Like, I have a credit card with them. Like, they're a great company, but I just don't find a lot of purpose and value working in the organization.
You know what, though? And everyone's purpose and mission could be different. It could be an industry, right? Or it's, hey, I really love developing teams. And it's not so much like, hey, you're like, okay, I'm going to work because location was number one, right? And it's Kalamazoo, Michigan. Sorry, dogging on Michigan today.
And Home Depot.
And
We're
Home
sorry.
Depot,
We
sorry.
love you guys.
I love you guys mostly.
Yeah. But okay, location is number one. You said, hey, my spouse has followed me around the US for the last 20, 30 years, whatever that is. And so my new mission is, and where I'm going to find purpose is developing teams and what I did in the military and have that culture and whatever. And so that becomes your mission. There's the day-to-day BS of whether it's, the logistics and the distribution, all of that stuff. But where you're getting that purpose is building the teams. You can go anywhere and do that. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some crappy organizations out there, but you can always find purpose. And it goes back to that mindset, right? It's all about mindset.
That shift in the mindset.
How do we do that? It feels like we missed the mark on the recruiting piece in a lot of companies,
Sure.
bringing folks in. How does Talent War Group do that? That makes it different? Because you guys,
Yeah. I mean, so I would say that, success in one organization is not an indicator of success in the next organization, right? And I'm sure you guys see that all the time. And so when a client comes to us and they say, okay, we want a Navy SEAL. Well, why do you want a Navy SEAL, right? And we, like I said, we work with all different types of leaders, military, non-military, but, they see, I want
Jocko to come work for me.
I
I just like Jocko. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah. Or Yeah, or an Army Ranger. Why do you want an Army Ranger over, let's just say, a Marine infantry officer, right? Why?
You should never want that.
You're not helping me here.
I'm looking for someone lost.
And
That's
it's just this factor to them, right? And so anyway, so we're going through and say, okay, what, if the role is a replacement or even if it's new, like what does success look like in this? And we're focused on the character attributes when we go and find that person. And there's no rose tinted glasses on either side of it, of like being very realistic, like within like previous experience in recruiting firms was you tell a client, oh yeah, we can get this person. You can get that person for that amount of money, because you just see those dollar signs. And when a client comes to us, I'm like, no, that's not realistic, right? And having those conversations of like, okay, you want that person, this is how much it's going to cost, right? And being willing to step back because it's not a win-win situation. It's not a win for the client and it's not a win for whoever ends up being there, right? They're going to have somebody who day one is ticked off that they got sold a load of crap,
Yeah.
And you got a candidate who, placed a leader who's like, wow, this sucks. And ultimately what we want, especially if we place military, is that if we place a military leader, whether they're just transitioning or they do have some industry experience, and especially in organizations who haven't hired a lot of military, of like, we want to open that door more for that organization to hire more military. So this person needs to be able to go in and drive results and, and be additive to the culture in every way. And if that person's not it, there might be a short-term gain monetarily, but long-term, that it's not there. It's done. We've closed the door off for future veterans to get a job there and future business. So that's kind of hey, is this a match, right? Is it
Yeah.
realistic? Okay, you're saying you need 10 years of project management experience. Okay, what's the difference between 10 years and 6 years or 10 years and 4 years? Why do they need 10 years? Why? Because the person previous had 10 years? Like, because it took you 10 years? This upcoming generation, they are wicked smart. They have all the
They're awesome.
resources.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, wow. Like, we have a younger marketing team. They're amazing. And I'm always like, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Like Instagram. I call it Instajam. They think it's so funny. Or Spacebook or something. But they're just like, oh, yeah, you just go do this. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have any idea, how to do it. And so they're super resourceful. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, do you actually need a subject matter expert in this role? If you're saying that there's other experts on the team and that this person can learn from them, you have a potential, like a high potential. You have a future leader in your organization. Do you want to invest in that? And usually they come at a smaller salary. Sometimes not, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, so you're leading the customer. They're saying, I want a Navy SEAL, 10 year, but you're challenging them and assessing them and approaching this as a challenger, which is that I think that's novel.
And sometimes and so a lot of there's only ever been one organization over a decade that they're like, hey, I don't want to hire any military. And that's because they had a bad experience with it. But no organization is going to go out there and say, we don't want to hire military. No, they want to. But most organizations don't have the infrastructure to set transitioning military up for success. That is the reality.
Yeah.
So when we go, companies like, oh, hey, we want to hire military. That's great. What infrastructure do you have? What do you mean, what infrastructure do we have? I'm like, okay, you are a tech company. Most people coming out of the military aren't going to have your C++, Java, this, whatever, not techie, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's great.
So, but they're not going to have it. They'll have some equivalent maybe from in the military, but that doesn't translate over. So either you have to have, a course, some kind of internship, and there's SkillBridge out there and stuff now. That's great. But if you don't have that, what are you just going to be like, oh, and they're like, oh, we have entry level jobs. Okay, well, this person has been in the military for 20 freaking years and has accomplished a ton.
Yep.
And not to say that, hey, you start at the bottom of the totem pole, but it's like, really, this is not a match here, right? You would underutilize this person so much. And I have seen when I worked for one of Raytheon's cyber firms, there was this. He wasn't a kid. He was kind of a kid. he had like shown up at headquarters, and his name's David Neeland, by the way. We'll give him a shout out on here.
Yeah, David.
I think he's still there, or maybe not. And he came, he wanted to learn more about cybersecurity. And like, okay. And he wanted sales specifically. And I'm like,
Okay.
whew, cybersecurity sales, like whatever. And so he came in, asked for my time and a few other people's time. And I was like, he's really good. The kid, he's probably older, but the kid, he's good. Like he could be a really good ISR, but now I have to go and like convince a hiring manager, like, hey, just have a conversation with this kid. And I had like thank you letters and notes and follow up. And I was like, he is showing all the right
Sales
signs.
right there, yeah.
And anyways, I pushed, almost literally pushed the hiring managers, like, you need to hire this guy. And they talked to him. It's like went back and forth for months. I'm like, poop or get off the pot here, gentlemen. Like, let's make a decision. And they hired him, and they like the kid fast tracked. And like, I don't even think he's in. I think he's doing like field or I don't know, something engineering now or something. Anyways, it was just one of those stories of like, hey, it is possible just because somebody doesn't have the resume that they can't do, especially in sales, right? That's a lot of personality. You can figure out all the nuances.
Yep. That's one of the things Kirk is always saying, and you've probably said it a few times, but like hire for the passion and the drive, and then you can train the talent.
Hire for character, train for skill. That is my firm's logo.
I love it. Shout out.
Yeah, no, it's something else he always taught me is like you can turn someone down, but to get someone with that amount of energy and that amount of passion, you can always tone them back, but you can never turn someone up. You can never be like, be more excited. Like if they're not, that's just not the way it is.
Oh yeah, I'd always want to be able to pull somebody back, than have to push them forward.
Yeah. So like when you see that from a candidate in an interview, that intangible from the hiring manager side, it's like, I know you said you want someone who understands Cat 5 and Cat 6 and like they've had all this other, but this guy is going to learn that in 5 minutes and that's going to be completely irrelevant.
Yep.
And we're seeing that from some of our companies we work with, in that you'll have a veteran come in with zero experience in this whatsoever.
Yeah.
Get this one guy, Brandon Perez. He's a tank commander, E6 in the Army, and straight in the data center and zero problems. It goes back to the stress levels, and that this isn't stressful. This is there's problems. There's maybe yelling. There's a tight deadline. No one's shooting at me. There's no like large equipment going around.
Yeah, nobody's dying. Nothing's on fire. Yeah.
Total different approach to it.
Yep.
So that person with zero experience in that field can transition out and be successful. And the thing that I think is just super fascinating is so often we'll stand up there and be like, veterans can do anything. We can do anything. And we get focused more on the entry level side of like getting you right out of the service into a role. But for our company alone, we hired a chief strategy officer and a chief operating officer that one's a Navy SEAL, long-time relationship. We didn't hire him because he's a Navy SEAL. He just happens to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
The other guy is a military police officer a long time ago. And they do not come from our industry. They don't come from the data center side. They don't come from the infrastructure side. Our COO comes from background at Goldman Sachs, other financial institutions.
Yeah, that's a great background.
And our chief strategy officer comes from large corporations, in that their mindset isn't any different than when they got out, and they still attack things so ferociously that they don't have any background in.
Right.
They know they take their lessons and they apply them every day to what we're doing. So not only do we see a veteran that can come out of the service and be a good project manager, be a good delivery manager, technician, we can say even after service, they can go into an entirely different field, grow professionally, and then transition into something and be equally as effective. They're picking up the finer details.
That's a great point.
And they've come from lifelong lessons of learning things that it doesn't matter. You can take veterans straight out of the service. You can take them 10 years into working at Walmart and put them into a fascinating role, and they'll be just fine.
Yep.
It doesn't stop.
If I may, there's a lot of, I don't see it as much now. I certainly saw it like a decade ago, where there was like this sense of entitlement of, I've done my combat deployments and whatever. It's like I'm a disabled veteran. You have to get me a job. And I was like, okay, and so there was I'm like, okay, well, hey, you need to work on your resume. This is what a really good resume looks like. You need to practice in front of your wife, your dog, cat, whatever you have, in front of the mirror, if that's your only option that you have. And and they wouldn't invest the time into themselves ultimately. So we work with so many people, you only have so much time. So I tell people like out of the gate, if you're not willing, no one's going to invest more into you than you are yourself,
Yep.
right? So I'm like, hey, if I get on a second call with you and you sound like a robot because you're reading off a script because you wrote it out and
Oh,
you haven't
no.
practiced, then I'm like, I will literally hang up on you. This is your disclaimer now because you're not investing in yourself. And I've had people like, well, not all veterans are created equal. That is the
true.
reality.
Absolutely.
There's the bell curve. It's in the military, it's in corporate, it's everywhere. And so, anyways, if I could just tell those who are transitioning now, or even if you're a veteran and you have, you got into your first job and it's not quite there, it's like you have to invest the time, and that's networking. One of the many lessons that
number
I
one.
that I learned.
The evil networking as
And yeah,
best
I
thing.
have to work
Yeah.
on it to this day. Like I am an introvert all day long, like all day, every day. And I have to actively work on it. It's uncomfortable, but nothing great ever comes in that comfortable
Yeah, and
zone.
the self-promotion thing is what got me
Yeah.
in the civilian world. Like, you did a great job. Shh, shh, shh. I'm good. I'm part of the team. I don't want to stick out. I find a lot of veterans when they're getting out have that. I'll just take the pain. I won't tell anybody my issues or challenges, and I'll just do a great job. And they're alone,
Yeah.
introverted, and that's like a lesson. It's a recipe for disaster.
It's uncomfortable to be like, hey, I did this. And it was like, yes, you under your leadership, yes, these people did these things. It was still
was a
your
team.
leadership and the
Yeah.
team. But when you go and you interview and you talk about it, like it is uncomfortable to say, I did this while I was in the military, right? And so there's a lot of coaching that goes on with that. And I can talk about
I
interviewing.
want to go through it. I still have a challenge there.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to show people I drew a really nice picture. Yeah.
Like people think that, when you're going to interview, like somebody's trying to trick you, right? And you're like, oh, they're trying to mess me up. And like every once in a while you'll get a hiring manager, or usually it's someone who doesn't know how to interview and they're insecure and they've somehow been brought into the process. Like maybe that's not a company you want to work for anyways, right? Like as a hiring manager, like when I've had to ramp up teams and I'm like, I have a lot to do. I want to speak with someone who I can say yes to, right? I'm looking as a hiring manager, I am looking for reasons to say yes, not to turn you down, right? And so as a veteran and you're on the job market, it's like your job is to give them reasons to say yes. And that's what it is. And so you have to know yourself, know what you did. Have you researched the company? Like these are basics, right? Okay. Or, hey, I really want to interview with this company, but I've applied before and they're not reaching back out to me. Go and find someone that was in the same branch of service as you that works for the company. And just, if they don't get you anything, go to the next one.
Networking.
Yep. And like there's, tracker, Excel spreadsheet. I'm like basic on that one. I'm sure there's programs and all that stuff that'll do it. But yeah, just like an Excel spreadsheet. Hey, I reached out to this person. And I will also say this, because time is money and you're asking for a favor. If you're reaching out to someone, say like, hey, can I get your advice on this?
Yep.
Do something for them. Right? Even say, hey, can I take you out to lunch? Hey, can I get you a cup of coffee and pick your brain for 30 minutes on this? Versus just saying, hey, can I have a chat with you?
You're offering something.
You're offering something. And it doesn't have to be something massive, just like you're showing respect and appreciation for their time.
Yeah.
And their knowledge and all their failures for them to be able to give you that answer.
That's a lot of pain they're sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's one of those uncomfortable things when you get out and you think about networking and it kind of just feels like you're kissing someone's ass. And I think when you distill it though, it's like,
That's it.
do you just not get to know people better? Like in your own companies, in your own, the different contractors you work with, the different customers I work with. I'm networking with them. I'm getting to know them better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand their problems. And like what you're saying, part of networking is understanding how can I help someone? Like how can I be of service to you? And one of the things that I've told veterans when I got out is volunteering. Being part of volunteer networks is incredible. And one of the reasons I say that is every place I went to volunteer with, they were all people just like me in that we were already successful and we just want to give back now. So the majority of the volunteers there were people who were like, oh, I actually know someone who's hiring, or I can connect you with this other person.
More networking.
And it was a beautiful place for networking. So at Oracle, the reason I started realizing I like recruiting was on my off time, I like to be part of veteran support organizations, volunteering, and I just kept doing it. And then whenever there'd be a role to fill, I'm like, oh, I could fill them so fucking fast. It would just be a quick post to the group that I'd built. And within that community, I already knew someone who was getting out in X amount of months, who had this background, who wanted to be a project manager or something. And it was that immediate network. So if there's nothing else you can find in your place, go find the veteran support organizations. Like go find.
Those are great.
I mean, there's
some crazy ones.
More and more every single day we exist. And one of the newest ones I'll selfishly mention is the Overwatch Veteran Alliance Foundation, which we started our own 501(c), and that we were always doing charitable events. We're always giving back 40, 50, 60,000 a year in different groups. And it was just part of what we did. Of course, we're going to do a golf event. Of course, we're going to raise money for poker. And then we got a little older, and it's like, wait, this isn't a side thing anymore. This is actually why we do most of the things we do. It just is a thing we don't take officially within the company. And that's when we started the Overwatch Veteran Alliance Foundation, that we want to up what we're doing. We want to give scholarships to the certifications we know matter in our industry. Nothing against, the PMPs and the PGMPs out there. They're great certifications, but they lack industry focus. So what we want to do is expose people to things that actually do give you some industry expertise. We want to pay for it. And we want to raise money for other events. We raise for other charities for no other reason than that's just the core of what we do. And we're gonna take it serious now. And that, why not? Let's just keep growing that side because it seems to be working and it seems to be impacting people. And we can't place every person we encounter, but we've noticed, we just saw, what's his name? There's a U.S. Navy guy, Scott Harkin. We had him come out to the Data Center Austin conference, which is specifically focused on data centers. What did we do? We just exposed him to what the industry is. He'd never seen this industry before. And we exposed him to what type of companies are in there. So all on his own, he's now gotten a job, lined up his own transition with a major data center owner called Iron Mountain. And all we did was what? We exposed people to what the industry was. We got them to shake hands and be around each other. And then he did it all on his own. So
and now he can help.
And now he can tell the next person of like, hey, there's actually an industry you can get focused on. You don't just say, I'm a project manager, I want to go live in Minneapolis. You're like, no, I want to go work in this industry. And hopefully there's an opportunity in Minneapolis that aligns with this industry because that's what we're pursuing. So the Alliance Foundation, one of the first things we're going to do is Operation HIT, which is Heroes in Transition. So we're going to host those of us who've been part of the military recruiting world from years ago, we understand that there was groups that did a lot of these hiring conferences. Which we'd all fly in and we get exposed and we do interview. And you might be interviewing for a reselling of recyclables. You could be working for Morton Salt. You could the wide variety of opportunities.
Not speaking from your personal experience, though, right?
Totally not my personal experience, but those that were around to remember this. So, but there were some good pieces out of that. There were a lot of learning lessons for me personally I got to experience. But the shotgun approach doesn't work for me. It will not work for the industry or what we're trying to do. So for Heroes in Transition is 1,000% focused on how do we get you in the data center industry, either as a technician, project manager, maybe you're on the facility side and you're more worried about the machinery. You want to go into sales. Like there's over 270 different specialties within the data center industry. We're just trying to focus on that and that alone. So HIT in San Diego, March 27th, 28th will be the first HIT conference. And that is where we're going to bring 300 different veterans from the San Diego area and other areas to talk about one thing, and that's the data center industry.
So,
That's awesome.
That's the difference with what we're trying to do in the industry, and that we didn't have this, so we wanted, right?
No.
This is all it is. We're just creating what we wanted.
building a tribe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The tribe aspect is
That's the most important piece for me, at least. That's what saved my life.
I remember with one organization I work with, the intro into your network was if you were placed within that company, you got a LinkedIn connection from the CEO. And then that was like, thanks, that's not the transaction we're looking for anymore. It's more like, hey, great job. We wish you all the success, but here's the community. Stay in touch. Here's the app where you're going to be part of us. Here's the training we recommend. Here's the things going on within your industry. You didn't just go off and you're no longer part of it. Because success for us isn't getting you placed one time. It's getting you placed and you bringing someone along with you. You talking about the guy that or the gal that was in your unit that you've now introduced to this whole industry, and hopefully you brought him in through us. If not, the goal is that you bring one other person along with you.
That's awesome.
And executive search, is there any difference with executive search, you think, versus just like someone transitioning after 4 years? Is there something that we can take from that to help the veterans that are getting out? Or
The only difference between executive search and I would say someone who has 4 years, maybe they're in their and we've represented young leaders as well, right? Of like, hey, you want to go into a startup and roll up your sleeves, and you're willing to do it for 60,000 base salary.
You're crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah, and like so, hey, like we have certain thresholds just monetarily because we do guarantee, and we're coaching them for a year, and there's a big investment. But there are companies out there that are looking for people who they're like, hey, we're going to give you a lot of promises for the future if you build this up, and there are a ton of veterans that are really really good at that and excel in that world, or could and will excel in that role. But like I said, to the difference between executive search, we still work with people who are transitioning out of the military. Stop putting like translating like captain to COO or CEO.
goodness
Stop
gracious,
doing that, folks. Number one, I
That's such a
still
disservice.
see that, and I literally I'm like, stop. But like I said, no one is going to invest in you more than you are yourself at the end of the day. And network with everyone. Get very clear on what you want and what you don't want, right? I always ask people like, okay, well, what location-wise, what are you looking for? Like, I'm willing to go anywhere. That's great. Where are you not willing to go?
Red line?
And usually it's like, okay, well, I don't want to go to anywhere that, if it's like North Dakota, okay, understood. Okay, you don't want to go up north, you don't like the cold. What's ideal, and really narrowing in and getting clear in that commander's intent, right? Of like, what does success look like for me in this transition? Write that down first. So you're able to evaluate things. It's just it becomes so chaotic. My story was so chaotic because I didn't write down what success looked like. I was in like, and I'm not even an emotional person. I was like totally emotional. Like I want to get out of DC and whatever. And I'm going to get a job and I'm going to be a translator, like because that's what I do. And I didn't get that, right? And people think they're like, okay, well I was what's something that translates over really easily. Or people like, okay, you're, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 88 Mike?
Yeah, like truck
driver. Yeah. Think, oh, yeah, I'll go and do that. And
CDL. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't always translate over all the time. And so do your research.
It's true. It's very true. Just because you're a truck driver, you never did long haul.
Right.
You just went and did part of team activities. We were moving things.
Motor
we were
pool doing
things.
PMCS.
You're so right. That is so often the categorization of like, well, you did this. This is the exact same thing, and you're going to love it.
Yep.
Where, man, now I'm thinking, have I done that?
No, this whole conversation has got me thinking, wow, I screwed that one up. That's great.
I'm going to go talk to my aircraft mechanics a little differently now. Like, well, very similar maintenance histories there. But yeah, just totally different applications for what you can actually do.
100%. And so also when you get people like, well, I did this in the military, I'm going to do it in the civilian sector. This is your opportunity if you start transitioning early, not, oh, yep, ETS in about 14 days here. And so now you're starting, right? And if you are there, you just have a lot of ways to catch up. But if you can, 18 months out, I know it sounds like a really long time, but like lock in your education if you haven't, like take advantage of those opportunities.
SkillBridge.
Yep, SkillBridge. Schooling if you can, whether it's online, bachelor's degrees. I think I remember when I got out, did have my bachelor's degree, and it was like a little bit more special back then. Everyone has a bachelor's degree now. Nobody gives a rat's rear side if you have a bachelor's degree, and quite frankly, a master's degree is becoming one of the same as well.
Wow.
And like people like MBAs, that's great, but there's so many different options. There's so many different schools. A lot are online. It's like we're looking back of like, hey, let's look at you as a person and what you've done and what you've accomplished and those character attributes. And you can thank COVID for this with the Great Resignation, where companies are like, whoa, we have to completely reevaluate everything. That's a whole different podcast for y'all.
Let's do it. I like it.
But
The COVID impact. That's fucking
that
It was
I've
insane.
done, it was.
It was
Yeah.
insane.
It was. And like, no, people reevaluated, why am I working for this organization? What motivates me to go and do this, right? And we are having a tangent here, but we had people, the real estate market just skyrocketed. People sold their homes. They went to the RV life where they can work remote, not even have to interact with people for $40, $50 an hour, right? And they're like, I don't have to be part of this corporate BS anymore, And so companies really were in a bind because it used to be, hey, what can you do for us? And the tables have turned, right?
wildly. Yeah.
And so anyone listening who's transitioning out of the military or even just job seeking, like, just don't take that too far in the sense of like, well, do I really want to work here? I know that's what you're thinking. You still have to showcase that. But people are certainly reevaluating, and like, I want to work for an organization, and I think this is a little bit more on the younger culture, newer generations, right? Of like, hey, do your social values align with mine, whether it's the environment or whatever it is, right? Whatever is on the news at the time, right? And does it align with what I'm looking for? And if it doesn't, a lot of times people are saying, no. And people realize,
especially the new generation. These
I don't know how to prioritize
kids are
that,
awesome.
like from a career standpoint, because like I look at it and I'd say the single thing that we focus on is what scope do you want to accomplish. Like I want to work for. Back then, I wanted to work for Oracle because I wanted to be in the cloud development space. I wanted to be part of region building because I saw that as a fundamental piece of knowledge. So I didn't give a shit about what the rest of the company did. My focus is on I want to do that type of work. Now, if you add on a component and now you have to filter them out based on that, I don't know that you can. I don't know that doing that is what makes you good at that particular industry. Just because you follow ESG guidelines, just because you do that, doesn't mean your company's gonna last.
right.
So to get focused on that, I don't know how to balance it. Like the younger generation, certainly that's a key component to why you'd even work in the first place. Like coming out at my age, I just have to say again, if I don't want to go work in manufacturing, it's just not something I want to learn. Wanted to be part of what I saw as development of data centers, which when I first saw the development of cell phone towers, my dad built cell phone towers early on.
Yeah.
It was like the neatest thing in the world, as we started to get cell phones. So I looked at data centers in the same way, that like that's the big, huge technological push that I saw in the early 90s from my dad. But for me, and that was why I want to be in this side of the infrastructure.
But you have the passion there. Like that's your new mission. That's your new mission, right?
Yep.
Everyone has to find out what that is for themselves. And it's not going to be industry focused. It won't. It will be, it could be, it's the people, it's the culture, it's the, it could be, hey, I love creating leadership development programs. And so they don't care what company it is, as long as they're being able to create those and they get to, facilitate instruction, and that's what they love to do. That's great. And they work for, a craft store. Who cares, right? They're getting to do what they love. So
is there what tools does a candidate have to, let's say, get out of the military? That's all they ever wanted to do. Where's a good place to start to go find your purpose? I mean, it sounds really easy. Like I know sometimes it can be gray and cloudy.
Sure. Find your purpose. Oh, that's where the commander's intent is,
Yep.
right? Of like, and if you're, I think it's a little bit easier if you're not even just young, but if, hey, you don't have family, like family is a whole new element. And which is one of the questions I will ask, like, are there any other decision makers in this process? Wife, kids, cats, dogs, like dogs and cats, animals, pets, they are a decision factor into, hey, well, you can't travel 85% of
That's
the
right.
time.
Mr.
right?
Bojangles needs company.
Yeah, I got Mr. Fitzgerald. He's my dude. He's actually our security detail at Talent War Group.
That's awesome.
But he'll go on the website soon. But no, it's what was the question? Sorry, I told you.
It was about finding or having something to help you distill the purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
place to
priority.
start.
What do you need? Like, what are your basics? Like, people will say, hey, I just want to make $60,000 a year, right? Like, okay, well, what are your what are your obligations, right? Or hold on, let me rephrase that. I'll get someone who will say, okay, I want to make $150,000 a year. Why do you want to make $150,000 a year? Because somebody told me I want to
Yep.
make $150,000 a year. Okay, or I should be. Okay, let's go through your priorities. What are your obligations, like financial obligations, right? What's the need to have, the nice to have, and we're like really nice to have, right? So you kind of have that tier there. And then going through your military experience and even asking people, hey, what was I really good at? And it could be the soft skills too, right? You might think that, hey, well, I was great at event planning. And everyone's like, no, you absolutely sucked at it, right?
Yeah, those are horrible events. Yeah.
The only reason it was great because everyone brought their own beer, or whatever it was, right? And so maybe soliciting some of that feedback and going back to your peers or whatever and say, hey, what did you think that I was really good
I
at?
like that. Yeah.
And getting it from there, or hey, and what are some things that I wasn't really that great at? And be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go into project management, right? That would be moi. I should not. Which, you know what, women are really, typically, not me, are really good project managers because they're organized and
Yes.
they're detail oriented. I have to force myself to be organized in my workspace. Everyone's like, your desk. My house is a completely different story. But no, women are great project managers. They really are. That's kind of how most women work, very organized, detail oriented. And just finding, hey, when you were in the military, what did you really enjoy doing, right? And it's like, okay, well, I love being
Liberty. Yeah.
I love being overseas. Okay, well, what about overseas did you really enjoy? Oh, is the camaraderie with all the guys, Okay, so you are looking for team. That's really important to you. The culture, the team that you
culture.
work with, right? So it's just kind of translating that and just going 2, 3, 4 clicks down into those things.
Yeah, I don't think I've even explored that
No.
far.
Love it.
I'll be honest. I steer people toward industry.
Yeah. Oh no, I
Like,
know.
when
Yeah.
When I talk to people, I'm like, well, you can do all kinds of things. I like building. And I'll just leave it there. Infrastructure and development of infrastructure is something that I find truly fascinating. So if I was going to advise anyone coming out, it's like, what are you building? What are you trying to do there? And I'd say I get a mixed result. I think some of the candidates I talk to, like some are just a little more senior at times, they want to be deeper in technology. And that's like, cool, building is good and all, but like I was doing torpedoes and this and that. Like I want to go develop like a leader in technology. I want to go work for DARPA. I want to go work for Booz Allen Hamilton. And a lot of them, they go and be senior engineering managers or engineering program
for like
managers.
18 months and they
Yep.
realize how much they don't like it.
Yes.
And
It's common.
and so it's like I see a lot of people go that route, and hey, you got to find out for yourself in a lot of ways. I'm just going to continue to be diligent. I'm like, yes, electrical project, working for an electrical contractor is not a bad job. Like building large amounts of electrical infrastructure actually has some very intricate processes involved that, it's not software development, but same intricacies, actually bigger issues if you fuck up that one. Like you don't electrocute yourself on code as easily.
Well, and I like, this is like nothing against like pushing towards an industry, like this is your business, right? But it's like you could take me and you could sell me on your industry, right? If you are hitting the right, like if I tell you, hey, what am I looking for? Hey, I'm looking for I love being with a really collaborative team, and what do I want to be? One of these days, I want to be leading my own project. You've got me because you've got a map for me, and you can paint a picture, and so it's not just people have to know what they're looking for. And with the reverse of that, when you don't know what you're looking for, then you're going to end up with something. You're going to become a statistic.
Chase the dollar amount. You chase like
Done
a
that.
title. It's like
This is not my analogy, but it's like, going to the grocery store when you're hungry, right? Of like, hey, you get a whole bunch of things and a lot of it it's not healthy or good for you, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have if you don't have your shopping list. So I totally butchered that one.
I love it. No, after a night of drinking, you're like, you've been healthy all week. You're like, I'm going to get some jumbo sliced pizza with grease dripping off. You make, when you're hungry, same thing.
Yeah. Exactly. So just write it down. Seriously, people are like, oh, I've got it up here. I'm like, no. I'm like, seriously? Don't put it on your computer. Write it down, like on pen and paper, like old school here.
Yeah.
We all got tablets and stuff these days.
Well, I'm curious to know what resources, like if you think about when you came out, you just kind of fumbled around and did your thing and found success.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Fumbled
When you think about, this is something that it's hard to articulate at times, and that something about being thrown out there, like can yield some beautiful results. It can be terrifying, but like something about just putting yourself out there in a role that you really don't have any experience in, you kind of want to do it, forces some learning in there. In that, I wanted to be a project manager when I got out.
Me too.
How I got to that field, I wanted
my
oil and gas
PMP.
first, but PM became okay. And so when I first became a project manager, I mean, I was in construction as a kid. I was a hand, like digging trenches and moving tools to people. That was my construction experience. I worked in concrete, but never in a leadership role.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I thought was just so amazing is when I got out and I know what the fuck I was doing. I know what people were talking about. It was very hard to keep up. But I knew that in meetings, there's command presence. In meetings, there's things we have to review and people have to talk. So the first OAC meeting I hosted, my first day on a construction site, it was like, I have no idea what the hell is going on. I don't know what this project means, but I do know that I'm supposed to be in charge and I'm supposed to exhibit confidence in what I'm doing. So therefore, that's the first base. Let's just get that out of the
That's
way.
right, Second Lieutenant.
All right. Command hand, I know what I'm doing. All right. Now let's focus on what are we talking about? And it's like going back to what do I know? Like I know these things are true. And then it just, since you have enough tools to look confident, that's when the forced learning comes in. Like now when I go home at night, I'm watching this fucking video because I'm never going to be embarrassed again when I heard this one thing I didn't know what it was. So like one of the things I don't know how to make that a resource to a veteran of like, hey, you need to know coming out. It's going to be scary, but you got to rely on what you do know and control that. And then self-learn like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Not even like also get a mentor.
Oh, yeah, that would have saved me a hell of a lot of time, actually.
I did not do that. That was part of like the poster child thing. Like I didn't have a mentor, and it wasn't because I thought I was the smartest thing or anything like that. It was just like, I don't want to waste somebody's time. And you're like, yeah. And it's so, you're like, and I was like, I will just struggle and I'll get through it. And it's like, what if I would have done that? Like, how far would I be, And so ask someone, right? I have two, I probably have more than that, but like two, one in industry who has done what I'm doing successfully. And I get to learn from all their failures, right? And so, and then I have someone who's outside of industry who can give me a different perspective, who's not, like right there, like, hey, well, in my industry, we do. I'm like, oh, that's a fantastic idea. Why didn't I think of that, And so, again, always humbled by them, but get a mentor. Get a mentor.
Yeah, that I should have led with that. Like, my goodness,
Yeah.
some of the things I learned on my own, it wouldn't have taken 2 years.
No, I don't get that. Like in the military, you're on a team.
Yeah.
You will be forced mentorship. And then when you get out, I notice so many veterans have this like rugged individualism. Like maybe it's something from Hollywood. You go, you fight your war, you're a hero, you come back and now you're Rambo.
Yeah.
And you're going to take everybody on. No, stop doing that shit, guys.
Yeah.
You got it. The same things that work in the military, the same things that work in civilian when it comes to that teamwork and mentorship. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mentorship.
You'll get further ahead way faster than me.
Yeah.
Like someone like me who didn't.
I think about some of the.
I screwed up.
I didn't
so
think
bad.
about his mentorship, but I connected with this company called American Corporate Partners when I first got out. And I don't know if you've heard of them, but they pair transitioning service members with a Fortune 500 executive.
Okay.
Wow.
And not necessarily C-suite. You're getting a VP and up, and they're your mentor, on the phone mentor. And so I wanted to go into oil and gas, so I got paired with a gentleman from Oxy Petroleum out of Houston, and he was their IT manager, director. He's a VP of something. And we're going through, and I'm like, I did this, sir. This. And he stops when I'm talking about logistics. And I'm talking about contracts.
4 Alpha was popping out.
Yeah, I mean, so talking about the contract, he's like, let's talk about that more. And he kind of guides me into like, all right, tell me what you did here. And we had a great conversation, and he's looking at my resume. He's like, all right, first thing though, throw this resume away. This is terrible. He's like, this is the longest, most terrible resume I've ever seen. He's like, you're great. He's like, everything you just told me is great. Why isn't it on the resume? He's like, so again, throw the resume away. We're going to talk tomorrow, and he's like, you know what? Don't do anything to your resume, but throw it away. Because tomorrow I'm going to send you a bulletized list of everything that you told me that was important and everything I think is important on your resume. And then we're going to talk after that. And I didn't go into oil and gas and things happened, but that was this fundamental piece of like, well, I'm never sending that resume out again. Mm-hmm. I'm never applying to a portal again, because he was like, why are you applying to portals? No. Why are you contacting people? No. And so like he forced me in that, like that. And I think that's something that we as veterans can do for each other. And it takes a little bit of gumption of like, you're going to have to be uncomfortable with someone.
That's so good.
You have to push them, not because you're being mean or arrogant, but because sometimes that's the way we need to be talked to when we're coming out.
Well, yeah, when I look at someone's resume, I'm like, okay, they've told me, like a lot of times I won't look at the resume till after I talk to them, but I'll look at their resume, I'm like, so what?
Yeah.
You know, or they're telling me all these great things that they've done. I'm like, so what? Like people, as a hiring manager, right? If I'm hiring someone to be a business unit leader, I want to see the results. They've increased revenue by this much. They've looked at these inefficiencies. And I'm like, you have to be able to translate that, what you did in the military, because you did that as well, right? Yes, a lot of times in the military, we did things in 10 steps and spent a lot more money doing them, unless you're in the Marines.
Sweat equity.
Yep. Where it could have taken 3, but hey, like that's what companies, what you did in the military with all those things, the private sector wants to see it as well. Mm-hmm. So put it on your resume. If I look at a resume, especially for someone who's looking at maybe titles or, director level at a Fortune 500 or VP at a startup, whatever it is, if I look at your resume and I'm like, you have 0 numbers here. Like, I mean, seriously, when a recruiter, and you know this, how long do you actually look at a resume for?
Under 10 seconds.
Exactly. Yep. Right. And when you get corporate, it's less than 6.
Yeah. And yet what is TAPS teaching? Like you got to have a great resume and you're going to drive with that. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably one of the last steps you need to worry about.
I mean, you're reading through. It's like, I'm looking for keywords or something that like makes me stop and read more.
I just want to talk. Yeah.
And then as long as I saw that one thing, I don't even go to the second page. If I saw that first thing, all right, cool. We're going to talk about that role because that thing applies to what we're talking about.
Yeah, you need to have something that's seductive so that they get to the conversation, because that's where you're going to shine.
Yeah, and that's why, like, especially for those with, like, I would say anyone with 10 years or 15 years of experience or more, regardless, leadership, individual contributor, you go into a functional resume where you highlight your accomplishments up front, because that's what they're going to see. When you've worked for however many companies or commands or whatever, you go on to page 2, I'm not reading that.
I could even, like, I was looking at my resume a few months back, and I couldn't even remember some of the bullet points from when I was a second lieutenant. I was like, I don't even know what that means anymore.
And so that's another thing of like, write this stuff down. We all have I Love Me sheets and book, like write that stuff down. Because I was the same. I don't know how I got hired at out of the military at a recruiting firm with the resume I had. I have it saved. One of these days, that is one thing I have not shared. I'm like, you guys hired me with this resume. Okay, this is awful. But I just didn't know any better. TAPS like, or ACAP or whatever. They're like, yeah, this
beautiful
is
resume.
Yeah, beautiful resume.
You're gonna get a job. No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like half the stuff I didn't know, I was like, oh, this should have gone through like EPUBs and whatever, and can't have that on there and whatever. So
I bet it comes from the intelligence world. Like half of it's redacted.
Well, like, and I didn't even put, I was like, oh, I can't put that stuff. So yeah. So basically I look like a training program manager, because I'm like, oh yeah, I manage these records and whatever. And I just didn't know any better. But also that's on me because I didn't like figure out what it should look like. And also there's a lot more resources out there now. And I think it's just, people struggled for so many years and so many people struggled for so long just with the transition out. So it's great that there's all these resources now. And a lot of it's just like people like us who are like failed getting out miserably. And hopefully people can learn from our mistakes of like, Amen. Don't do this.
I know I've done well now, but believe me, by any measure, it should have gone otherwise by like not finding a mentor, not reaching out, not building a network. The smartest thing I ever did getting out was just volunteering, being part of like finding a community. And it started because another veteran, I think I was definitely every veteran a little lost coming out. This one veteran when I went to this EMBA course at University of Texas San Antonio, this other veteran, Army guy, he's like, hey, you should come play rugby with us. He's like, we do this every other thing. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I've never played rugby before. And that veteran had other veterans there. And it just started this community of like, oh, veterans hang out. Veterans do things together. And then we go and we have games and we're part of a community. And so that was my message to my soldiers getting out. I was like, hey, you should go play rugby because there's a community here. There's like this. And so what I realized from that, other rugby players were part of other volunteer units. I'm like, oh, you guys all volunteer at this same thing. And I realized there was a community of people who all just get back and do things.
Yep.
So that entryway into rugby led into volunteer work, which led into me understanding that the community.
Yeah. Do you still play rugby?
Oh, no. I had a lot of fun for a year and a half. Definitely.
What'd you break?
It's an ACL.
Yeah. It's like CrossFit and rugby.
Yeah, it was so much
jiu-jitsu.
fun because I didn't know I did anything until later on. But yeah, it was a good entry into I just lost that camaraderie and that dedication to fitness when I got out.
Yeah.
It was like you go from being an infantry officer, like you got to be fastest, you got to be strong, you got to do this, and it's like I'm all alone. I can't even carry like my son's car seat thing is like it's so fucking heavy.
Like that, buddy.
Yeah, it's so heavy.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely, 100%. I mean, I'm around folks who are like, I'm like, wow, I am not impressed. It's that accountability piece, right? And so like I've always had, I'm gonna regret saying this on a podcast, a nickname of chicken wings. I have a scrawny arm. I'm tall, lanky, whatever. I can't build muscle, blah, blah. I just run. That's my thing. And we've got there's some young professionals in our office that I'm like, oh my gosh, you are jacked. Like we have one gal in our office where she's been doing it since she was like, I don't know, late teens or something. We were out in New Orleans at the SHRM conference last year. And we all go to a gym and we work out together, which is great.
Oh, it's cool.
And she starts doing like weighted pull. Like she has this is coming from the person who just like been doing strength training for like a year and a half now. She's got weight like chained between her legs and she's doing pull-ups. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Beast mode.
Yeah. And it was just super impressive. And so I'm like, all right, like, okay, I'm going to try this and I'll try the nutrition piece of like, oh, you actually have to eat like a lot of protein. Oh, okay. You can't just eat like vegetables and all this stuff all day. So the accountability piece is really important. And then everyone hates running. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm good at something, but I'm definitely not as good as you guys are in that department and just constantly like learning from each other and be like, hey, like, where are you at in your dumbbells? And I'm like, I am up to 20 now. And I started at 8, And so that's, when I remember when I got out of the military, I didn't want that. I was like, it was like I cut ties, and then I went and worked for military recruiting firm and it came, right back in my face. But no, it's really important. And sometimes, you know what, I think the further I got time-wise away from the military, I missed it. And it's now, yeah, it is really funny. Yeah. So I was like, I need my space and whatever. And now, decade plus out, I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Moto now. And when I got out, I was like, get me away from this organization as quickly as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm the guy that wears the funny hats and the T-shirts, and I love the community.
I'm starting to get back in there.
Yeah.
Have you got your hat yet?
Oh, no. I don't know if I'll
one.
ever take it that far.
Make sure you put every award there. That's
No,
when you know you're there.
I don't know, but I haven't gotten DV plates on purpose. Like I'm like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, okay, like you're dumb. Like you could be saving like a lot of money. Like
I've learned this. I'm a traveler. Well, all of us are travelers, right?
Yeah.
Going to the San Antonio airport and other areas so often early in the mornings, I started realizing there's like a sea of DV plates in the first part of the parking garage. I'm like, I didn't realize when you have DV plates, you get to park at the airport for free.
Yeah, for like 7 days, or that's how it is here in Austin anyways. It's like 7 days.
I was like, oh, well, in that case, maybe I don't mind getting them.
I still don't have them, but it's like on the to-do list.
This year is going to be the year.
This year will be the year, yep.
Let's do it.
Okay, you too.
I need some too.
Awesome.
It is awesome.
So let's see. We've talked through all types of transition shit, good and bad, leaving the Air Force, stumbling around to different recruiting agencies, realizing that putting people in just regular jobs that don't lead anywhere sometimes doesn't sit right with the soul.
Yep.
You go out and you find your path to Talent Work Group. Now you are the president. You have
No.
take me through like what's life like now? Like, you get to travel much? Do you find
Yes.
yourself what side of the country more often?
I like last week I was in Tampa, but it was for it's called 777, the 777
777, yeah.
expedition, and so the celebration of that, and that was 18 months in the making, but it wasn't just to show off and to like break world records. It was to raise money for the scholarships for the families of fallen and disabled, and so anyways, no, travel all over the place, and I love that. And I think, my favorite part of what we do is just the people, which is funny coming from an introvert.
No, it's great.
Yeah, it's like I genuinely love working with people, and like when you're like when you're working with an organization, you're like, why didn't we think of this sooner? Or when like on the management consulting side, leadership development, of going in and working with a company who like we're just having all these problems, and we're training the trainer. Like we're working ourselves out of a job when we go there, right? Essentially, but that's how it should be. Like we're leaving an impact, and on the search side of placing a fantastic leader, military or not, and it's just networking, building relationships, and one thing leads to another. One door opens, and they don't all close if another one opens, right? I used to think that, and it doesn't. You can do multiple different things, and so very fortunate. And there's a lot of opportunities out there with the market right now, with the industry, and what companies are doing and that are creating opportunities, what they're not doing that's creating opportunities. So I think if we don't, just as humans and companies, if we don't continue to evolve and what is the market saying that we need to do, then we will not be in business in 5-10 years, right? So it's.
Do you have any like strong recommendations for like transitioning service members coming out now? Like knowing that you can see the market and how things are fluid and they're changing.
Yeah, the next 6 months.
If you're a veteran getting out in the next 6 months,
2 Qs.
Karli's words for wisdom, a success.
Well, I would say wisdom or success, like in terms of like target, like I don't know if y'all watch the news. That's another piece of advice. Watch the news.
I try not to, but yeah.
Well, like okay, just the part about like the market, business wise, like watch that. You don't have to watch all the other baloney or whatever, but see what's going on in the market. I would say probably stay away from tech a little bit. Just like okay, everybody's situation is different, right? Like if you go through and you look at who's laying people off right now, the majority are tech companies, right?
Well, look what the role they're laying off too.
Yeah.
So that's another consideration when you come in. It's like we're in human resource. We're in talent acquisition.
Yeah.
Internal talent acquisition groups slaughtered. Like my goodness, they took a brunt of all these layoffs from these companies.
Yeah.
So it becomes a question of like, I think this is a great place to be. Just not internally as a corporate, recruiter or talent acquisition. I think from the third party side, there is an immense amount of opportunity there that we're not as subject to the. When the bigger companies stop hiring, they stop hiring their own people, but they still need to hire from us because now they've just transitioned.
Oh yeah, and that's a whole another podcast of like with HR and TA teams specifically of like it's like this where it's like, hey, if you maintain that head count, like you don't need to have 14 recruiters and 2, full-time employees. Like balance that out a little bit. So if you do need to let go of, anyways, nerd alert, but
that's great.
just balance your head count out there. So because what happens is budgets that should have been approved in October or September, October, they're getting approved right now. Yep. And so they've just laid off all, the majority of the TA function and HR, whatever. and budgets just got approved, and all right, now we need to ramp up hiring. And now there's, well, I mean, it helps with why we're, helps our businesses, but we want companies to be successful as well and not go through that. Hey, we're gonna hire these recruiters, and then in 6 months we're gonna lay them off because there's no hiring needs. I'm like, no, let those people build up talent pipelines,
Yeah.
right? And get proactive and let them take a break for a second. Train, right? We did it in the military, right? And so
That's a tough life in the corporate world. Just being part of layoffs in general. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you prepare a veteran for, hey, layoffs? You have no.
it's
It's
different.
not your
a gut
performance.
punch.
It's
Yeah.
just like, in one day, the corporation decided that this is the best move for us going forward.
Yeah. That's just life. And sometimes you get orders to 29 Palms.
I love it now. I love 29 Palms. Going back for a reunion. Can't wait.
But, well,
Yeah.
Fort Huachuca, wherever it's at.
Yeah.
Like
Another
sometimes
beautiful place. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that's where the intel folks are. Yeah, driven through and went straight past and then didn't look back.
Exactly. But, okay, you did it in the military too. I mean, there are some people that, maybe didn't have that, but it's like you're
Yeah.
eventually going to be dished up something that's
Yep.
not favorable. That is life.
You get the wind knocked out of your sails.
Yep.
And if you're a rugged individual and you're doing this all on your own, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But if you've stayed plugged into your community,
Yeah.
that's what helped you in the military. It's what's going to help you here.
That's great. Yep, exactly.
Amen.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm thinking prior to Overwatch, every single opportunity that came my way out of the military, it wasn't a job ad. Like literally, I've never been in a role that was advertised online. I've only been in roles that were, this person said, "Hi, I have this role," and like, it was that
Yeah.
dance. And then the job was posted,
is a
in which I go
dance.
apply.
dance.
Like so often the post is done as a formality when the person they're looking for, they're not waiting to aggregate. So it's that network side.
Yep.
And I couldn't quite understand that coming out until literally every job was, my network that was just going after that. So when I think about how you're going to be successful coming out, like how do we just keep reinforcing, like network's not bad. Just talk to people, talk to more of
Community.
them, talk to a lot of them. Sometimes you're going to get nothing out of it. Sometimes you might get one small piece of information.
It's intel, baby.
I think going
intel.
in with like not having the expectation that you're going to get the whole Bible to transitioning out in one setting or whatever,
That's
right?
a good. You're not going to get all of it.
Yeah.
You're piecing one page at a time.
Yep, exactly. And what worked for one person is not necessarily going to work for you, I should say. So just it's intel gathering.
I love it. What you've talked about on the transition, getting set up. It's almost like the beginning of the 5-paragraph order, like the most basic thing
Yeah.
everyone learns.
Yeah.
Orient.
Yes.
What's your situation? We like to fire, ready, aim,
Yeah.
right? But no, the same thing you did before going on patrol or doing whatever you did in the military is the same thing you got to do in transition. Like build a
100%.
plan. You've just reinforced that for me.
Yeah,
Awesome.
contingencies and everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got was and all sorts of good stuff.
Well, I think we've said two things I wasn't expecting to be very profound. You kept saying about your own intent, like establishing what we can follow commander's intent, but what do we want? Like, what is our intent? What's our family intent? What is
Family intent.
we're talking about this
That
earlier.
entire
it's-
clan
yeah.
intent.
Yeah, what's the whole fam? Like, what's
What
success
does
there?
what does success look like for you? When we go to interview now, right? We as high performers, we want to know what success looks like in the role. So we ask the company to describe what success looks like. But how, like, we haven't done that for ourselves, right? In our own personal lives. And you say work-life balance, it's all integrated, right? Nowadays, there's no work-life balance. There's no separation. It's integrated. And are you going to do something like, there's nothing worse than waking up in the morning and being like, shit, I don't want to go to work. And that being
Yes.
every single day.
Yes.
That is, I've been there.
Soul destroying.
Yes. So, and I will say, if you ever do get to that point, self-reflection, try and improve the situation, have exit strategy, because that long-term is not healthy.
I think you hit it right there.
Yep.
Exit strategy. I think
Yeah.
so often you'll be like,
And that's
I'm overwhelmed. Fuck it, I'm out. I
And you
quit.
don't want to quit in the military, right? No one quits. You can't quit at Ranger School. You can't quit anywhere. But sometimes in the military or in the civilian world, you've got to say, this isn't good. I'm moving on.
Yeah. Like I, again, learned my lesson the hard way. I knew day one that I was at the wrong organization, and I stayed there because there was this, oh, well, I got to have it on my resume for so
Ah.
long, you know? It's like, no, call a spade a spade.
Myths.
It was a
Yep.
bad match, right? And I would be like, now knowing what I know, if I'm not interviewing anywhere, I'm not, but if I were, I went, and I had a short stint, I'd be like, in full transparency, it wasn't a good match. I never should have taken the job. That's it.
And I learned all these great things
Yeah.
that I can bring to you, to your
Yeah.
organization, to our organization. Yeah.
Yeah, like I learned some stuff there, but it was a short stint. It was 2 months. You still got to put that on your resume because they do the background check. They're going to find it like, why didn't you put that? And then it's a red flag. You're hiding stuff from us, But no, it's, hey, I got out. Like I could have said, hey, at 2 months, or anyone who's going through this right now, like I also had an exit strategy. I didn't just like get up and quit and be like, oh no, I can't pay my bills. Like I went and found something different. But if you're not happy, don't let it be long term.
Yeah.
It'll show in your performance. It'll show up in your family life or personal life, whatever. People can tell, and that's just not a place to be long term.
No, the full transparency on your failures, I find is actually a strength when you're interviewing. Like they're like, whoa, you just admitted something.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like interviewing someone where like, oh, like what's your greatest weakness? I don't ask that specifically, but like what areas are you working on, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't have any weaknesses.
One
I'm
time
like,
I got mad at Jesus because he
Yeah.
wasn't walking on the water good enough, and I helped him.
I work too hard.
Yeah.
I'm just a perfectionist.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm so passionate.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
You're not comfortable enough. No, I don't think I could give a real fault when I was coming out. Now, yeah.
Oh, I got a longer list of faults than I do.
Well, I wasn't comfortable talking
My
about
faults.
them coming out. It was
Yeah.
more like, no, project images of success. Now it's like, no, you can tell someone
Yeah.
some negative shit.
Yeah,
Because
as
you can
long-
also tell them good stories too. It's like, it's all
Well, and
negative.
also it's like, hey, you know what? This is not accurate. Anyone in my life will tell you time management is my thing. But like, say it's time management, right? That's like, and you can use a story like, say, hey, when I was a young officer in the Army, I just like could not get to work on time. Or I couldn't wake up, and I had this really great, whatever. I had a great peer, whatever, and he gave me all these tips. And every day I do that. Like I have my phone, has alarms on it for when I should drink water, and I set 14 alarms for me to wake up in the morning, and I live out of my calendar, and I have a system that works for me, and I have to continuously work on it every single day. But it's still my weakness, And so it's like that. All they want to know is that you have self-awareness, that you're not coming into an organization being some macho, and there's females that do it too, that you're like this know-it-all, nothing
Narcissism.
wrong. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say one thing I would say is a safe thing to share is like my fault for the longest time is I overcommit. It's like, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. I'll worry about it later. And what I learned though is as my family grew, those free times of like, well, yeah, I'll just do it at night. I could always just stay up late and get things
Describing
done.
me, Anthony.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, you're going to the kids. It's like I can no longer read an entire book over the weekend because now like there's someone asking things of me. So like the bad habits I had early on, not is it bad? It's just what got me where I am. Taking on more work than I can.
Yep.
Now I can say if I take that on, this thing has to stop. Like I'm at the point now where I can describe what more work does. So that's a safe one to talk about. Like a lot of us way overcommit on what we can do, and we just figure it out. And then one day our lives get more complicated, and that doesn't work for us anymore.
Yeah.
The power of no. That's the
no.
hardest thing I had to learn. Yeah.
Well, I figure if we could maybe finish on something I think would be very important just to discuss, and that's family planning. When you're thinking about our career, when you're thinking about what we're doing, when we stop working out, when we stop integrating with our community, it has like seriously profound effects on us mentally.
Oh, 100%.
And so often we're like,
creatures.
go better yourself, go get some training, go get this. But stepping back and be like, if you stop working out when you get out of the military, you're going to notice other things in your life that suddenly are more traumatic.
Yep.
Stress that can build up when that's what the morning was. Every single morning in the military, it was an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then start your day.
Yep.
Where now I let 3 years of startup world just like consume me, where, my back was killing me. My hips were hurting. My knees were this. And it was like, wait, if I let myself get weak, everything you thought you walked off in the military comes back. So like, how did you get fitness like more in your life?
I just made it a priority. Like it's a non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
It doesn't mean that I work out for 3 hours every single day, but it is. I know, like, I actually have to force myself to not work out every day because you
Yes.
actually need to rest.
Yep.
But I feel really, really good when I work out. Like every morning when I wake up, which is like, by the way, people, you don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. Like your body needs rest. It's okay to sleep till 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. Like, with depending on your schedule, like you don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I just can't sleep. But so I'll wake up at 4 and I do spin bike for 25 minutes. It's not like full on, I'm whatever, but
Get that heart rate up.
get the heart rate up. I feel really good. I'll do, 30 minutes, 40 minutes at night of strength training, probably anywhere from maybe 4 to 5 times a week. And then I'm always doing something like I love running and I have a ranch. And so I'm always outdoors. And so that's still physical exercise as well. But it's like, it's that high, like you're high on endorphins. Your body needs it. You feel good. If you're taking care of yourself, you're able to take care of other people, whether that's in work, that's in your personal life.
You look better. You feel better. I mean,
You can tell all day
Mm-hmm.
long. And like nobody wants to hear this. And I know we live in this culture, and we might have to cut this out, sorry. But this body positivity, which not judging anyone or anything like that, and maybe people won't say it out loud, but if you're a leader and you don't look like you take care of yourself, it'll be a lot more difficult for you to gain the respect and trust of the people who are to follow you.
It's so true. I mean, you're judging your parents. We all do it initially until you open that mouth and then they go, oh, he's an idiot.
He's in great shape, but that guy's a moron.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like going to the doctor when you have the doctor who is morbidly obese themselves and they're telling you that you need to go on your diet. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Fiber intake.
Yeah. So
It's true.
yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I will also say this, like, in terms of like working out helps with mental health and stuff like that. When I got out of the military, it was not quite so accepting or whatever of going to see a therapist or whatever.
Therapist, yeah.
Yeah, I like now I'm like
therapist.
somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm just having a rough time. And like you don't have to go through something uber traumatic or anything like that, right? And that's all relative anyways. Like I'm like, hey, do you have a therapist? And they're like, well, I don't need a therapist. I'm like, yeah, you do. You're in this
You have a
phase of like,
psyche?
yeah,
Okay,
you need
a
one.
therapist.
And like,
It'll
I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm at a point where like maybe I only need to see my therapist every couple months. And maybe that's timing. I'm not prioritizing it, but I know if I need more, I can go whatever. Like sometimes we talk about vacuum cleaners. Maybe not that bad, but like it's just, hey, like getting that sanity check or like, hey, I'm feeling this. Is this normal? Right? It's totally healthy. And if someone tells someone otherwise, send them my way. No, I'm kidding. But they're wrong. They're wrong.
Yeah.
So I didn't even take into part the therapy thing. For me, if I'm not outside, if I'm not sweating, it's trail running.
Yeah.
To me, that's like there's no music. It's just me in the trails for hours on end. That was always my therapy.
That's zen.
And what I realized again, the kids' injuries coming up, it was like, wait, I no longer do therapy. It's been a year, and like it would just happen where I'm prioritizing these things now. But I think if we don't tell transitioning service members they come out, look, dude, it's going to get tough if you don't talk to people about not just work, not just career advancement, but like why you're troubled. About I don't care if you didn't deploy to Afghanistan, you didn't get in a firefight.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't
if you got
matter.
stuck on a ship under, like, I remember very stressful times before I even deployed that at the time it felt very stressful. Now I don't feel it as stressful, but nonetheless, it was going to impact my life, had I stayed in that environment. So just getting people to know that it doesn't matter if you're an infantry guy, a SEAL, a fucking special forces, or a cook. It's all okay to fucking talk to someone, and actually is strongly encouraged to talk to someone coming out.
Yeah.
And if you don't need it after 2 years, then you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Like just move on with your life. You're that great.
Yeah, no, I go and see a therapist. Like I said, maybe it's only a couple times a year now or whatever. Just like, hey, am I still, we're on track.
Yeah.
But I used to like public speaking, and to this day, I still get like anxiety. But it would be like where I was puking 3 days prior to having. Oh yeah, like
You overcame that?
yeah,
That's intense.
and like I still struggle with it sometimes. Like, but somebody told me, and it wasn't my therapist, but so they should probably get paid for that session that they did with me, whoever it was, of like, I remember they told me, they're like, there's no reason to live through it 2 times, right? You're going to be anxious and nervous before you go on stage or whatever.
That's good.
Yeah. And so they're like, be prepared, practice your shit, but there's no need for you to live through it twice. And then my life got so busy where I didn't have time, and I had some good coping and whatever of like, why are you actually anxious? Is it you think people are going to think you're stupid? Do you think you're going to stumble? You're going to, you meant to say sec and you said sex, and you're like, hee hee, people are laughing. Like, who cares, right? And just like those silly things of like, oh, what if, it's like, it's fine. It's going to be okay. Most people aren't paying attention anyways. Everyone's so focused on themselves. And so anyway, so I'll get a little nervous before I get on stage, and even maybe the first 30 seconds, I get the bubble down, and usually I'm pretty good to go. Like coming here today, probably 5 years ago, I would have been worked up for like a week. Oh. And now I was just like, I was excited to do this podcast with you guys. And sometimes it's like, you just have to do it more,
Yep.
Yeah.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
That's
no,
good.
I agree. What about you? Is there something you could talk about when you're coming out, how therapy, I imagine you resisted initially, but like how you found a resource or how you found...
Oh, I needed it. I was listening to, honestly, it was my wife that helped me get therapy. Hey, something's not right. And I was like, of course, I'm good to go. I'm not wounded. I'm good. No, you're not. And here's all my drinking was getting out of control. I'd gained 50 pounds. I couldn't fit into my suit. So I was like, something's going on in the head.
Yeah.
And there was a stigma at the time.
Totally.
And no longer, that stigma is going away.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you go to the gym, you get a personal trainer, you do that for your body. Why wouldn't you do that for your mind, for your psyche?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just being human is weird. We're on a big rock floating through space, and the Earth's going to eat us in 5. I mean, this is weird.
It is.
If you really think about it. And you got to work
if our
through
mind
those
can
things.
make us sick, right?
Oh yeah,
it could also heal us.
it totally can.
Right? It just mindset.
Not just your body. I mean, your spirit, everything.
Yeah.
Well, any resources you'd point out? Like, I know when I came out, one of the groups I started volunteering with right away that helped a lot was the Travis Manion Foundation.
Great.
They put me in front of a lot of schools, a lot of volunteer opportunities. It was really neat. They do these service weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we partner with a high school, and they get like 30 of these kids out and go clean a park, or it was just neat seeing it from the early stages of someone's like career or character development. Like, if you mold them correctly, you give them examples. Like, it's tremendous. So for me, Travis Manion was great, and it got me into that like leadership environment again, like being able to talk about stories and help people, and just stand in front of lots of kids and say things that there'd be times where it'd be like, I remember when I was in high school thinking about like these people who come speak at your Memorial Day events.
How did they do that? I was horrified.
Yeah, so like I'd sit there and be like, I hope I'm not an idiot. Like, honestly, I was giving a presentation one time, and there were like 700 kids in the auditorium, and I was going to do it 3 times that day. The first time, the microphone was totally fucked.
Oh no!
I didn't know it. I was just, and then like people were like, ah, and then like afterwards, he's like, dude, no one care for shit. Like outside of like these people, they were just being super nice to you. And I was like, oh man. And the second one got better, the third one got better. So the Travis Manion Foundation was a really great one. The mission continues. What are some other charitable organizations? So those are just the 2 that come off the top of my head.
Foundation ones, like for folks that are transitioning out of the military?
Yeah, just things that get involved with from a volunteer standpoint. Anything you can think of?
Volunteer, like honestly, there are so many nowadays that you can volunteer with. Like, just go on like Google, and there's local event pages. There's a ton for vets. Like when I got out, it was kind of like going to
the VFW.
VFW was that was it. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, oh, like there's people like, oh, you're like kind of young like me, kind of ish young.
Yep, they've got groups for every type of veteran.
Yeah, right.
You're
and
purple,
so
and you like crayons, and there's a purple crayon veteran group
that
will help you.
There's like if you like hunting, like I like hunting and fishing, and
4 Season Fighters. That's one of them. We support them. They take people out on hunts.
Yeah,
Their whole thing is let's just take people out and let them experience things together, like that little piece of camaraderie.
Yeah, there's a OpFob as well. That one's out on the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rubicon, another interesting one.
Yeah, off the podcast I'll talk about that one in a good way. Yeah, no, interested in them for sure.
Yeah.
There's tons. Like my Rolodex in my head's not working, but like seriously, go on Google. It's an amazing tool. Just like find people. Go on LinkedIn and connect with people. Scroll down through their experience. Be like on LinkedIn. Just like it's okay if people know that you looked at their profile, right? Like that's a good thing.
I wanted you to know I did research on you before we talked. I wanted you to know that.
Yeah, and
I care about this.
I was like, who is this guy? I didn't know I was going to be talking to him. No, but like. No, it's okay. And then like, oh, hey, what part of this organ, oh, they're in this. Let me look that up. And that could just be something, oh, hey, we served in the same unit or whatever it is. It's okay.
Yep.
All right. So our advice is search, because there is a veteran service organization no matter where you're at, and just go pop your head in, say hello.
Yeah, and if it's not for you, it's okay. There's going to be another one that will be, or they will point you in the direction of one. Like, I don't know any. I've never worked with any organizations that. I've never been like denied service. Right?
Oh, you want to volunteer this weekend?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, we have enough volunteers, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
Well, hey, thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for helping us understand some things that, frankly, maybe we're not really focused on. It's fit the theme well in that veterans can do anything, but as we just described, there's ways that we can do anything.
Yep.
If we don't hit those ways, then
you got to stay plugged into the team.
Yeah, community.
And if you're looking for a team, come talk to anybody that was on this podcast.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure.